Spring means renewal, a rebirth. The aroma of fresh grass and blooming fills the air. Sounds of joy and hope resonate deep within us. The feeling of the warm sun welcomes us back outside to enjoy Bloomington once again. Anything is possible on the brink of summer. Yet Hoosiers know every April in Bloomington is not only a revival, but a culmination. A finale of 4 years. 12 long months of countless hours on the roller, track, and road. Sweat and tears through another lap, another mile. Teams forging bonds that will last a lifetime. For the culmination of craft, these laps around this cinder track offer nothing but harrowing uncertainty. There could be a performance of a lifetime or a shocking late lap crash.
Laval is down. Several teams are down.
With a perennial powerhouse of the past returning to take the crown.
Jet Black, take it in the 2021 Little 500.
They say world's greatest college weekend, but it's more than a weekend. This one day in April is a climax, a culmination of a year in Bloomington for Indiana University. So take a deep breath and soak it all in. Soon you'll blink and it'll all be memories. Welcome to the 2023 Little 500.
What a way to welcome you to a blustery Saturday afternoon in Bloomington, Indiana. It's a special day. It is the 72nd Men's Little 500. 33 teams will try and follow Melanzana Cycling yesterday in crowning themselves champions of 2023. My name is Jack Edwards, delighted to be alongside former Forest cycling rider and Little 500 race director Hank Duncan. Hank, it's a special day. How are you doing today?
Jack, it is that one day in April we've been waiting for all year long. Riders have been training all year long for this. 33 teams here to take home the Borg Warner Trophy.
It's going to be a great day. Let's start before this year's race. Let's look back at last year. Phi Delta Theta brought Greek teams back to the forefront, winning an absolutely thrilling race. Hank, you were still race director last year. Talk me through last year's race and the excitement it was from start to finish.
Talk about a fast race from start to finish. We knew coming into the race that Phi Kappa Psi was the team to beat. We knew that they were going to make an early move and make it fast, and that they did. Around lap 100, they went for it, tried to lap the field. The pack worked together, caught them, but then Cutters went off the front. Beta Sigma Psi went off the front. Chi Alpha went off the front and had about a 15-second lead late in the race. It all ended up coming together, and around lap 199 with 1 lap to go, chaos happened.
Oh, yes.
And the entire field came to pieces.
You saw it in the intro, the late lap crash, the 199 crash. You see it right here, just a little wipeout. Andrew Laval, Phi Kappa Psi can do absolutely nothing. Crashes there. Phi Delta Theta wins it. Wow, it was a great race last year, Hank.
Phi Delta Theta and Jimmy Kulik, they came into the race with a little chip on their shoulder, and they showed the entire community why they should win that trophy, and that they did.
Indeed. Let's jump now onto this year's front. A big one that we'll talk about to kick things off is that Black Key Bulls, 2 titles in the last decade, not here. Hank.
One word, shocking.
Yeah.
Absolutely shocking. A perennial contender coming into the race as a pre-race favorite, having the top individual time trialer in the field, 2 other top 10 riders, and a team with the recipe for success. But to get into the race, you have to qualify, and to do that, you need to be one of the fastest 33 teams, and if you can't get in a clean run, you can't race, and unfortunately, they're not there, and that is a shame to the race today in the sport.
Gavin Good, the #1 overall ITT rider, was on Black Key Bulls. He won't be here. They had 3 of the top 10 guys. They would have been a big contender. Let's talk about the contenders that are here today. Hank, tell me, when you're talking about the audience at home, who are the 2 teams that you got to be looking for, or multiple teams you got to be looking for? I kind of previewed a bit there, the 2 teams. What are you looking for today?
Cutters, Sigma Phi Epsilon. Those are the teams that everybody's looking out for. The green jersey of Cutters has that deep team and a top sprinter ready to make a mark. Sigma Phi Epsilon, they might think of themselves as kind of a 1A favorite, but they are also deep 1 through 4, have a great coach and a great sprinter in Will Pitts who can take it home.
Indeed. And now in terms of just the general race strategy, we saw yesterday Teeter Melanzana going back and forth in terms of how they're going to try and attack that race. Melanzana obviously winning yesterday. What are you looking for today in terms of what teams are going to try and do?
It seems like we're in a new era of Little 500 where teams are not saving their best rider for the last 20 laps. They are going out fast and hard and making it tough to dwindle down that pack as much as possible. That said, it's a very windy day. We have 15, 20 mile an hour wind coming out of the west here today, which makes a breakaway very, very difficult. So we might have some dark horses who would have been sitting in the pack getting a little bit of a better draft than they would have been and waiting till sprint near the end of the race.
And in terms of when you want to try and make a move if you're going to attack, what lap number, especially with this wind, we'll talk about it a lot more in depth later, what lap number could you make a move at?
It depends on what the goal is. If your goal is to lap the field and tear the pack to pieces, lap 50 is a good time, lap 100 is a good time, but if you're going to make that move, you need to complete that move, or else, like you saw Teeter did yesterday, you can fall back and burn all your matches too early. So I would expect at least one team to make an early move like that, but maybe the winning move coming around lap 170 to 180, where you don't have to necessarily lap the field, but you can stay out solo for the last 20, 30 laps and take home that trophy.
We're talking about some general strategy here. Let's begin to get into some specifics of some teams. For some more on cutters, let's go down to the third member of our crew, Evan Kamika, who caught up with them.
Thanks, Jack. Here with Peyton Gaskill, the captain of cutters. You're in green today, and when you spoke at the Traditions of IU a couple weeks ago, you said this team is united by what it's going to take to do to win. That begs me to ask the question, what's going to take it to win today?
Yeah, well, it's going to take everything we've got, but we've been putting in a lot of prep work throughout the year, especially for Torn and I, the seniors. It's been a long 4 years, and we've learned a lot of lessons in the last 2 races, and we're hoping to bring it all to today and make it count.
What do you think is one of those lessons that you learned, especially with the win today, that's going to help?
Yeah, well, the wind can certainly be your enemy or it can be your friend, and you kind of have to convince the pack to take the wind for you and make sure nobody's getting a free ride off of you.
Last question I have, you spoke at that Traditions of IU, and you said you're most looking forward to taking that victory lap. What would it mean to take that victory lap later today?
It'd mean everything. I mean, especially, like I said, Torn and I, seniors, it's been a long time, especially coming out of COVID. Little Five's been my life for a long time, and especially being a part of Riders Council, and thanks to Student Foundation for keeping this tradition alive. I'm really hoping to be a part of it and, enter our name into the annals of Little Five history.
Awesome. Well, good luck today, Peyton.
Thank you.
Jack, back to you.
Thank you very much, Evan. Good insight from Peyton there. Him and Torrin Cray Maywar, the 2 seniors in this team, they've been on the last 2 rises. Their 3rd race for cutters. They were 2nd in 2021, 4th last year. I mean, when you think about Little 500, you can't think about many other things before you get to cutters. 14-time champion Hank, I mean, tell me about him.
They come into the race almost every single year as the favorites or one of the favorites, and this year is no different. They have possibly the top sprinter in the field, and Torrin Cray Maywar sprinted. As you said, Jack, came in 2nd in 2021, had a tough set before the sprint to even catch back up to the pack, and came in 4th last year. He is fired up, and I guarantee you he wants to win this sprint if it even comes down to a sprint.
Let's jump now to another team, Phi Kappa Psi. Abby Heyman is down in their pit with some more.
That's right. Thanks, guys. I'm here with Carson. You were going to leave last year. You chose to stay. You had unfinished business. How does it feel that race day is finally here?
You know, it feels great. I'm just fortunate to be here. I think it's going to be a great outcome, and I hope my sister's victory yesterday bodes good luck for us. So I'm just super happy to be here with my team and couldn't ask for more.
That's awesome. That's what I was just going to ask. How did it feel to watch your sister, your twin sister, and her team cross that finish line yesterday?
You know, it was surreal because it was her first year biking, and she didn't start out the strongest, but she quickly got good, and it just made me so proud. So it just inspired me to really go out there today and
That's awesome. And you guys have such an awesome fan base behind you. What does it feel to be here on race day with all of this energy?
You know, they make it, honestly. Like, the send-off we have is, like, crazy cool. They're what fire us up, and couldn't ask for better fans. So.
That's awesome. Good luck to you, Carson. Back up to you guys.
Hey, thanks so much.
Thank you very much, Abby. And it was Lauren Etnier who won yesterday for Melanzana, hoping that for that Etnier family, we'd love to have a back-to-back days. Talk about a great weekend that could be. Talking about contenders in general, Hank. Phi Psi in 5th place, a team that's been in and around the last 3 races, but they've had some really rotten luck.
It's not about that they've lost, it's how they have lost. 2019, 8-second lead coming into the final lap, exchange, lost. 2021, lap the field, crashed, lost. 2022 tried to lap the field, came back in the final sprint, crashed, lost. This team has an unfortunate recent history. This year, Carson Nettenayer, Caleb Cooper, and the team are looking to turn that around.
They lose Andrew Laval from last year's team, one of the strongest riders in the field. He had some really unfortunate luck across a storied Little 500 career. Let's talk about contenders in general. What do you need to have as a team to be a contender in your eyes as a guy who's been around the race for a very long time?
Jack, it is a recipe of 3 ingredients. 1, depth. Each team has up to 4 riders. You need at least 3 riders, preferably 4, that can follow any move in the book. You don't need to make the move, but you need to follow the move to keep your best rider fresh for the end. Speaking of that best fresh rider, you need a star sprinter, preferably a top 10 individual time trialist. Most winners have that in their playbook. And number 3, you need strategy, you need coaching. It's about when to use that strength to win the race. You can have strong legs, but if you use it at the wrong time, you burn those matches and you can get dropped like a rock.
Let's talk about another specific team, Delta Tau Delta. Our man Evan Kamikow has a bit more on them.
Thanks, Jack. One of the things about Delta Tau Delta is this is a fraternity now. It used to be Jet Black. Back in 2017, Delta Tau Delta got kicked off of campus, thus they had to go underground and become Jet Black. Now you can see behind me they have a giant student section, and what that means now that they're a fraternity is the fact that the recruitment is a little bit different. Now instead of going to be able to go out and recruit whoever they want off of social media and all other things, now they're a fraternity and they have a lot riding on them with fewer members. And one of the cool things on their right thigh, it's going to say Jet Black as an homage to their past. Jack, back up to you.
Some great stuff on Jet Black and now Delta Tau Delta there, a team that won back in 2021. Still have Josh Herbst from that team. Should be very interesting to watch them more. Let's talk about the bikes, the literal bikes in this bike race, Hank. In terms of the switch from Schwinn to State, what differences should the audience know about that? What changes have happened in the literal physical mechanics of these bikes?
Absolutely. This has been one of the biggest, most visual changes in the Little 500 in the past decades. Going to State Bicycle, it is a more modern bicycle. You have a 3-piece crank. You have deeper dish rims on that bike. It is essentially a more durable bike that if a rider crashes on it, you can pick it back up and keep riding on it better than those Schwinns could.
Let's keep talking about the logistics of the race. Jump now onto flags, what to expect to see start, middle, end of race. Hank, walk me through what the audience should be looking for in terms of what's being waved by our starter.
So the race will start on a rolling start. We have 3 pace laps, and then the green flag will wave just like a motor race. Green flag is free-for-all racing until something happens to preclude that racing, specifically a crash. When there is a yellow flag, riders have to keep their distance to the leader. It is essentially like a virtual safety car in Formula One if you watch that sport. You cannot bunch back up because drafting is such a huge factor in cycling that if you lose that wheel in front of you, you cannot get it back freely. Red flag, that is really only when there's bad weather and the race needs to be stopped. We will most likely not have to deal with that today. Black flag and blue and orange flag, those are for riders who need to get out of the way for the leaders to come through and keep racing freely. White flag, you'll see that on 199 going into lap 200. That means 1 lap to go. Get ready for some fireworks. And checkered flag, you will see the winner hands up in the air, celebrating to this big crowd here.
200 laps away from that moment. Let's get some more insight. Trackside, Abby Haymond is with Trent McGee.
That's right. Thanks, guys. Trent, so much preparation goes into this race, into today. How are you feeling that it is finally race day?
It's hard to believe it. You know it by the fans. The fans out here, the energy that's here. The amount of work that students put in to put this on is absolutely incredible, and it's a testament to the Hoosier spirit.
That's awesome. And there are over 70 alumni, former champions, that are here today. How important is that alumni fan base for IUSF, for the Little 500?
They're woven into the fabric of what we do here. Like, we don't have these teams, we don't have this race without great competition. And when they win and they're champions, it's an honor to invite them back. And I'm glad so many took the opportunity. We had people from California, Florida, from 1954 take up tickets. It's been absolutely incredible to see them.
That's so awesome. And what are you most looking forward to today? What are you most excited about?
I gotta say, like yesterday in the women's race, when they say mount your little 500 bicycles, I got chills. And so what I want to see is a safe, fun race and something that is competitive right towards the end.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Trent. Have a great race day. Back up to you guys.
Thank you very much, Abby. Great stuff from Trent, as always. Hank, let's double back the Little 500. We haven't even said it for those at home who may not know, just the general rules of what the Little 500 is.
This is truly a unique, and I do not use that word lightly, a unique sporting event in the world, and especially in bike racing. It is modeled after the Indianapolis 500 motor race. Actually, the founder of this race, the Little 500, was the son of a past Indy 500 winner. So everything you see here is modeled after the Indy 500. Qualifications. We have 39 teams qualify for this race to even be able to race today, and that is 4 laps around the track, 3 exchanges, just like the Indy 500. Today, we have 33 teams with pit boxes all around the track with 3 other riders in those pit boxes ready to go. 200 laps, a quarter mile plus each lap around a cinder track, and essentially it is run like an IndyCar race, a motor race, not your typical professional cycling event.
When we talk about one day in April, you know, it's the classic terminology for this special day, and it is a great day. Women's race on Friday, men's race on Saturday, but it is a year-round process. Tell me about what it takes to train to be a top athlete, to even get on the track here today. What does it take to be a rider?
It is a privilege to be able to race on this day. And let me tell you, these riders do not get up out of bed a few weeks before and start training for this event. They start training in June, in July. Once this school year ends, they're training for next year's race, doing long 13 to 15-hour weeks just getting those base miles in. When they come back to school in August, they're doing group rides. They're riding with each other, and that is one unique thing about this race is that all these teams are classmates. They're friends.
Yeah.
They train together. They know everything there is to know about their skills, their weaknesses, and their strategies coming into this race. Coming into December and January, you have riders riding on the collegiate road riding circuit, going out to other Midwestern universities to ride for Indiana University as a whole. But then February and March, track practice. They're up here at this track every single day doing track-specific workouts, working on those short, intense efforts like you'll see today with 10 to 15, maybe 20-lap sets, not your typical 1 to 2 hour sets that you'll see in other cycling events, culminating with qualifications, individual time trials, which is a 4-lap race around the track, testing your pure grit and strength, missing out, which tests who the best sprinters are, and then team pursuit, which is the best unit as a team, the best 4 riders around the track for 15 laps, all leading up to today to see who gets crowned champion.
An incredibly detailed process. Let's get some more insight on one of the top contenders today. Evan, what you got?
Yeah, Jack, top contender, but a family of a team pretty much. We're talking about SIGEP. SIGEP has a very awesome family connection. They're a team that primarily recruits down in Zionsville, Indiana, specifically Drew Gavitt, their captain. His father is actually the head coach. He's been the coach of SIGEP for the past 11 years, and he won it in 2015. And funny enough, Drew and one of his teammates, Will, who's a junior, actually got recruited to be on this SIGEP team, so it just shows how deep this family connection and Zionsville connection runs on that SIGEP team down in pit number 2. Jack, back to you.
Thank you very much, Evan. 3-time titleists back in 2015, the last time that SIGEP won. If you're a SIGEP or if you're a Cutters, Hank, and you know the field is marking, you know the field has an eye on you, how does that change your strategy? What are you doing if you're in the spot of a leader where you've got the other 31 teams or the 32 teams with their eyes right on you?
You have to be sneaky, Jack. You have to be absolutely sneaky. You cannot have your top riders in for Cutters, Torrin Craig-Mayor, Peyton Gaskill, Judah Thompson on the bike, and Will Pitts and Drew Gavitt for SIGEP on the bike making that move, because everybody in the stadium knows they're going to make a move and they're going to chase them. What they need to do, in my opinion, is have one of those 3 or 4 riders, the lesser-known riders on their teams, go out for a burn, for an exchange, hope that they get a gap, ride an extra lap or two to increase that gap, then get their strong riders on the bike with an existing gap there. And once that gap's there, not many riders, if any, are going to chase down those star riders that Sigep and Cutters have.
Let's go back down to the track with Abby Haymond.
All right, guys, I am here with the 500 Festival Princesses. How are you guys feeling being here on race day?
We feel amazing. We love the Little 500. We got to come to the women's race yesterday as well, and it's just so great to support all the students out there biking today.
That's so awesome. And what are your guys' responsibilities as the 500 Festival Princesses?
Yeah, so we represent the 500 Festival, and we celebrate the Indianapolis 500 and the 500 Festival up to the month of May. And we volunteer, we go to events, and we just spread the cheer and the joy of the month of May in Indiana.
That's awesome. Thank you guys so much. Have a great race day.
Thank you very much, Abby. Some more great insight on just the general festivities and just the great day around Little 500. We've gotten a lot of insight from you, Hank, in terms of just kind of the history, the top contenders here today. Let's kind of talk, I think, a bit more about the field in general and just kind of what you could see happen here today. What kind of race are you expecting? Any teams you might be looking out for beyond the ones we kind of hit on already?
Look out for Alpha Sigma Phi and Delta Tau Delta down on that fourth row. Alpha Sigma Phi, a second-year team building up from scratch. They have 3 great riders who can really make a difference and follow those top teams to victory this race. And then Delta Tau Delta, we mentioned them earlier, but Josh Herbst already has 1 ring. Yep. You could call him the best sprinter in the field. Don't you dare overlook him come lap 198, 199, because if he's there, he can beat anybody in this field. 2 other dark horses, though, to really look into if you're going to go down the field: Chi Alpha, Beta Sigma Psi. Chi Alpha, 2021, came in 4th with riding only 3 riders in the race. 2022, they came in 7th, but guess what? They made a potential winning move later in the race that didn't end up working, but they had the strength to even do it and had a half lap off on the field late into this race. Beta Sigma Psi, they might not have that star top 10 rider, but 1 through 4, their riders are deep. With Ben McEwen, Michael Dubois, and Paul Smith, they have a team that can follow just about anybody in the field. Don't count them out for a podium.
Don't count them out for podium. And kind of just looking at some of the best riders in the field just individually. You mentioned those top 10 sprinters, top 10 ITT riders. It's very interesting. We haven't even mentioned yet, on Sigma Alpha Epsilon, they're 3rd in the poll. They may be a little disrespected by us, Hank. We haven't even talked about them yet. And they have the, I guess, best rider in the field when you remove Gavin Good from the factor, because he's not going to be riding here today.
You are absolutely right, Jack. Luke Noss, his 2nd year in the Little 500, his parents are star athletes. His dad is coaching them today. He is the #1 individual time trialer racing today in this race. My one big question for them is experience and strategy. They are strong and they have a couple good riders to support Luke later in the race, but they're new to cycling. When do they use that strength? When do they make those moves and follow the riders? How do they make those exchanges and burns? And if they make it at the wrong time, those top teams like Sigep and Cutters, they will blow them away in the distance.
We're having the starting riders come out to the bikes after we've had all 33 teams have their names read out and have their walk across the track. Some having more brisk walk than others to get back to their spots. I'm going to run you through the top 10 really quick. We have a moment. And just in terms of those ITT placements, it was Gavin Good for BKB, Luke Noss for Sigma Alpha Epsilon, Judah Thompson and Torrin Cray Maywar, both for Cutters. That's a dynamic duo.
Judah Thompson might be the highest touted recruit to come into Little 500 in years. He's from Bloomington, Indiana. He is known worldwide in the cycling community. Watch out for him to make a splash in his first Little 500 race.
And he's got both Torrin and Peyton Gaskill in terms of guys who are in their 3rd race on Cutters who can offer him the experience that he hasn't had yet.
People think that Torrin is going to be the sprinter for Cutters, but if things don't go right in terms of strategy or timing-wise, Peyton Gaskill is a sprinter. And if he's there, then he knows where to position himself and knows how to beat other sprinters to that finish line.
Let's bring you through more of this top 10. Will Pitts for Sigma Phi Epsilon, Connor Berry, Alpha Sigma Phi, Josh Herbst, Delta Tau Delta, William Wagner, and Jack Handlos, both BKB riders. It just underscores, man.
Disappointing.
BKB, they had a dominant dominant team. But it just comes down to putting a qual time on the board, and let's actually kind of talk about quals really briefly, actually, at the 10th one before I forget. Garrett Cortese of Alpha Sigma Phi, the other guy there. In terms of quals, what kind of goes into getting a good time and the structure of quals in general?
To have a good quals time, you need to have smooth exchanges and good sprinting speed. Again, it is 4 laps around the track, and if you have a 4-rider team, each rider goes and does 1 lap as fast as possible. It's about a 35-second effort, if that, comes into the start-finish line, and you have to make a legal exchange, which means an exchange within a 32-foot area, which is the length of 2 pit boxes, with your teammate, hand off the bike to them, go and do that another 3 times. Blackie Bulls, unfortunately, could not do that this spring.
We'll take a brief pause from our discussions of the teams, give you some more of the festivities and the general vibe here at Bill Armstrong Stadium. The PA announcer, Jeremy Gray, and some singers will take you from here.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
As the starting riders come to the start-finish line and we get ready for racing, we present Indiana University's men's a cappella group, Another Round, who will perform Back Home Again in Indiana.
Back home again in Indiana, and it seems that I can see the gleaming candlelight still shining bright through the sycamores for me. The new mown hay sends all its fragrance from the fields I used to roam. When I dream about the moonlight on the Wabash, how I long for my Indiana home. Back home again in Indiana, and it seems that I can see the gleaming candlelight still shining bright through the sycamore for me. The new mown hay sends all its fragrance from the fields I used to roam. When I dream about the Wabash, how I long for my Indiana.
If you are in the infield and not wearing official credentials as a participant or official, please move into the stands or spectator areas. Only properly accredited personnel are permitted on the infield. We now welcome to the stage today's race starter, a member of the 1988 Wilkie Sprint Team, Carrie Helmuth.
Ride smart, keep your head up, good luck, and Godspeed. And now, the words we've all been waiting to hear. Gentlemen, mount your little 500 bicycles!
That we've been wanting to hear. They've mounted their bicycles. The pace laps are about to get underway. Let's break down our main rows, our teams that will be featuring here today. Row 1, Cutters, Sigma Phi Epsilon, Sigma Alpha Epsilon. A strong trio right there.
Sig Ep, Cutters, those are the two teams we are looking for to make the moves. They are deep, they are fast, they have experience.
Heading now into row 2. It's an interesting trio here. Alpha Kappa Psi, Phi Kappa Psi, Phi Gamma Delta.
Fiji, they're rebuilding a little bit, but don't sell them short. They have history. And Phi Psi, again, tragic recent history. They are looking to turn that around this year.
And a very interesting row 3. Chi Phi, Chinzano, and Human Wheels. Not a single vet rider in this row.
Human Wheels, Chi Phi, brand new team. So excited to see them qual in the top 10. Chinzano finished and qualified 33rd last year. Top 10 now. Good job for them qualifying top 10.
Now into row 4, and a couple of interesting teams we mentioned already: Alpha Sigma Phi, Delta Tau Delta, and Pi Kappa Alpha.
ASIG, they have 3 great riders that can follow anybody. Delta Tau Delta, they have that strong sprinter and Josh Herbst at the end. Watch them throughout this race.
Now heading into row 5, Alpha Kappa Lambda, Chi Alpha, and Grey Goat.
Chi Alpha, they have good coaching, good history. Jonathan Fraser and Spencer Pewitt, watch them throughout this race. Dark Horse, top 5 or podium pick.
And now heading into the next row, it's Ghost Cycling, Phi Sigma Kappa, and Novus Cycling.
Ghost Cycling, they had a good team pursuit time. They are always a good unit. Watch for those ghost exchanges throughout this race where nobody touches the bike at one point in time.
Now we got in the next row, CSF Cycling, Beta Sigma Psi, and Sigma Nu, a team we mentioned already in Beta Sig.
Beta Sig, Paul Smith, Ben McEwen, Michael Dubois, they are 3 veteran riders returning from last year. They made some good moves last year in the race to make a move with Cutters. They can follow anybody.
Row 8, 3PH Cycling, Delta Sigma Pi, and Lambda Chi Alpha.
3PH came in 5th in 2019. Great coaching on that front. Rishi Poladasu, Paul E., Ben Baines, Max Rezet-Winkle. Experienced team, smart team strategically.
Forest Cycling, Phi Delta Theta, the defending champions, and Evans Scholars in the next row.
Phi Del is rebuilding this year, but again, with that yellow jersey, anything is possible. The sky is the limit.
Tau Epsilon Phi, IUDM Cycling, Bears make up the penultimate row.
IUDM Cycling, watch for Lucas Troutman to ride over 100 laps this race. He is a great rider. That team is relying on him to stay with that lead pack.
Wild Aces Cycling, Army Cycling, and Beta Theta Pi round us out here today.
Wild Aces Cycling, one of the coolest stories in the race. Taylor Gassman, 9 years in the Navy, back to IU on the GI Bill. His wife rode for DG in the race, and now he's in this community. Excited to be here.
We got a huge gust of wind right here. Let's talk about the weather now with Abby Haymond.
That's right. Thanks, guys. as we know, yesterday the women's race was postponed due to heavy rain on and off all morning, and fortunately things cleared up, but that led to a lot of pooling up of water and lots of divots on the track, and that is referred to as the track being soupy, and that's exactly what we had yesterday. But today that is making for great track conditions. It makes it damp, it makes it compact, and those cinders, it's going to make for a very fast race today. But if you cannot tell, we have heavy winds here, so more on that. Evan, over to you.
Thanks, Abby. I'm no meteorologist, but I'm going to pull out my credential, and you can see how windy it is when my credential is flowing into the face. We're here at turn 3, one of the most dangerous turns on the track, and with the wind blowing into the face of the riders, it's going to make it really difficult for them to power up for that final stretch. Now, the riders are just about coming past us, and the race is about to begin. One major special day here in April. Jack, let's get it going.
Let's get it going, Evan. Thank you very much. The pace cars off the track. It's bikes only for the next 200 laps, the 2+ hours. Strap in. Get yourself ready. Hank, I'm excited to be here for the 70-second run.
What a day it is, Jack. What a day. Here we go. Green flag is waving.
Oh, a special day. The green flag goes. The green jersey goes first. The 70-second running of the men's Little 500 is underway.
We are looking to push the pace out fast early because there is almost always a wreck in the first 10 to 15 laps. Those teams, especially Beta Sigma Psi, 3PH, IUDM, want to move at the field as quickly as possible. But we see Cutters and Jacob Kuhn, a surprise starter rider, pushing the pace in that first lap, handing it off to Will Pitts, their star sprinter. So Sigap and Cutters going with two different strategies early on to start this race.
Very differing strategies to open things up here. It is indeed Will Pitts, and we're having a very early move up into the very front from Beta Sigma Psi.
Beta Sigma Psi, wonderful move from starting 20th all the way going to the pole position. I think that's Ben McEwen out there. He knew what to do. He knew what his job was within one lap of the race. They are out of that 20th place and into first. Now he can settle in and enjoy this first set.
Looks like it might have been Paul Smith who's in that first group, but regardless, Beta Sigma Psi jumping up very quickly from their row to get up high.
Sigma Nu, a nice surprise team leading the field early on. Good for them to move up. I did not really see them moving up that much in the field. Smart riding from Sigma Nu and Quinn Panucci.
Cutter's willing to fall in to about 6th place right now. Quinn Panucci, indeed the man who's leading things off.
He's actually riding everybody off his wheel right now.
He's giving a healthy lead to get things going here. We've got 2 laps under our belt. We're on to lap 3 already. We've got a massive crash here in turn 2. Several bikes down. We'll get you one that looks like it's...
It looks like 7 or 8 riders down. Forest Cycling's down. It looks like Phi Sigma Kappa's down. Wild Aces might be down. Army's down. Human Wheels is down. Tau Epsilon Phi's down. Grey Goat is down. There are a lot of riders down right now trying to catch back up, but the flag stays green.
Wow.
It looks like Forest Cycling is leading the charge back up to the field. Let's see if they can get back up there. The pack is not flying right now. Army is right behind them, and you have Wild Aces, Phi Sigma Kappa, Grey Goat, and then Human Wheels trailing.
Any wind coming into that factor there, Hank? You think in that turn 2?
I have to say so, because when you go around turn 2, that 15-mile-an-hour wind pushes you in the face and makes the whole pack slow down, and if you're not ready for it, the pack bunches up, widens out, and a Rebel Wheels can happen, especially in the first few laps of this race with the emotion, the adrenaline happening going on around the field. Crashes are going to happen.
Well, that was a massive crash in turn 2 to get things going just a few laps into the race, and those teams having to try and work their way back up.
And it looks like Kai Alpha in a great position right now as Fiji takes the lead.
Someone streaming from the outside.
Evan
on the far
Scholars
side.
looking to make the first exchange of the race possibly, but in a great position. The pack is speeding up a little bit. Forest Cycling actually making the first exchange of the race. They're still behind trying to catch up, but Evan Scholars pushing the pace right now.
Following right in behind is Fiji.
This pack is motoring along. They sense danger, and they want to spread this out to make it as safe and fast as possible so those trailing teams do not catch back up.
A 38-second lap last time out for Evan Scholars. A surprising from 27th qual position. They currently lead out in the front. And they're just kind of leading. They're not even going for a burn here at this moment. They're just trying to pull off in the front, coming now on the inside.
Here comes Go Cycling on the inside, followed by Sig Ep and Kai Alpha right behind them. Some good strategy from some mid to low qualifying teams already getting up to the front to avoid that first collision. We all knew it was coming, and it came early, and it came hard.
Kai Alpha going out on the inside, allowed to go up front by Sig Ep.
Don't look now, but out of those teams that crashed, it looks like Forest Cycling is trying to catch back up on the back of the pack there.
Let's go down now to Evan Kamikow, who has more on the crash spot. Oh, no.
That's right, Jack. Here we're at turn 2 where that crash happened. What ended up happening was the Pike rider, Owen, went down first, causing a bunch of other teams to spiral and fall on top of them. Lucky enough, most of those teams seem to be getting back in the pack, but right now Pike really far out of it. An unfortunate start for Pike today. But again, a lot of laps to go, a lot of time left to catch up. Jack.
Yeah, it looked like it was Pike that was the only team that couldn't make or get back on their bike. Cutters kind of pull off on the front.
And here comes Lucas Troutman and IUDM. Again, a rider to look for to ride 100+ laps today. He is not going to get off the bike anytime soon. Great job from him to get up to the front. Not many of those teams from that early crash have caught back on. That pack is still staying together, but
Forrest Beeline looks like to be in the back of the pack to try and just get into the back of this lead pack.
There are nerves in the field today. They know it's windy. They know they need to go fast. I expect a hot race from start to finish. Just as Cutters and Jacob Kuhn keep pushing that pace. Delt's right behind them. SAE and Sig Up right behind them as well. They know what they need to do.
It's John Peterson on the bike for Delta Tau Delta. Going up on the inside now is SAE again.
Here comes, I believe that's Luke Noss on the bike again. Their star rider. Look for him to be sprinting near the end of this race. The top individual time trialist in the race today, leading the pack at the moment.
Wow, what a frenetic opening 9 laps.
As we have our first lap team in Pi Kappa Alpha, unfortunately involved in that crash, as Evan said, they are now a lap down and back in that field.
Going to be some tough sledding for them to get back into things.
Once a team is a lap down, as we see, it looks like Kai-Fi making an exchange behind the pack.
Indeed.
But once a team is a lap down, it is incredibly hard to get it back unless chaos is ensued in the pack. So I feel bad for Pi Kappa Alpha. They trained all year for this.
Yeah.
But crashing early, a lap down, looks like their hopes of a top 5 or top 10 finish are slim to none.
In a rough spot. But again, just to reiterate, that was a turn 2 crash very early on. Wiped out about 7 or 8 teams. There was a pit crash as well. Small one there, but we've avoided things here. How strung out does this look to be in your estimation, Hank, in terms of this lead?
Well, just as you say that, Cutters and Jacob Kuhn making another push to the front.
Yeah.
They're not making exchanges. They're just trying to test the waters and see which teams are able to follow right now. You see the normal contenders up there, your Fijis, Phi Size, Delts, Beta Sigs, IUDMs, and Phi Delts up there. But this is a pretty frenetic start to the race. In past years, we've seen the pack calm down a good amount after the first few laps. That crash, I think, sparked a bit of adrenaline in everybody, and it's going a bit faster than I thought it would.
Yeah, it looks like CSF is making a big burn out in the front. They're not being marked here.
Yeah, that's Kyle Preston out there. Great burn. This is what we want to see from exchanges early on. They're in one of those backstretch pits. Nobody following them. Fiji just still taking the pole. Phi Sigma Kappa up there. Phi Psi up there. Just chilling all along, and you're about to see CSF come back into the pack in a second as they enter the camera.
Very strong exchange. It's still got a solid lead here. Coming up now is Phi Delta Theta. First time seeing them in the race.
Phi Delta Theta, even though they only qualified 26th, they are wearing that yellow jersey. They have Eli Kona on the bike right now. Don't sell them short. They have experience. They have the coaching needed. They might not be as deep as last year, but they are no slouch of a team.
CSF, Cutters, and Kai Alpha, your top 3 as things stand.
And behind the pack, about half a straightaway, Grego is still trying to catch up from that early crash. about a half a straightaway behind. They are hurting right now, but they might, if the pack keeps slowing down like this, they might be able to catch back up.
It was a 44-second lap last time out for CSF Cycling. That actually included their exchange 43 seconds for the general lead lap.
Now, in the next 5 to 10 laps, look out for the top teams to start exchanging and making their first moves of the race. You'll see some of the other teams make their moves around right now, lap 12 to 15, but your SAE, SIGEPs, Cutters, Delts, Phi-Si's, wait until about lap 20 to maybe 25 to make the moves, and you will see the pack split up, that rubber band stretch out as each team marks each other and doesn't want to give any team any space at all.
Sigma Alpha Epsilon, the team currently stretching out this lead group. It's Luke Noss out up front, had a 24-mile-an-hour lap last time out, 38 seconds. He's followed closely behind by SIGEP.
I'm a bit surprised by the strategy from SAE and Luke Noss because they don't have the deepest team out there. I would assume that they wanted to sit in and not pull and push the pace because they want to save Luke for the end. He is their star rider, and he should not be burning any energy right now.
He is burning a lot. He's currently about 5th in that first front chunk of the race.
Here comes Alpha Sigma Phi. First time we've mentioned them today. They are up in a great position. It looks like Connor Berry, their number 6 individual time trialist, is on the bike right now. Again, he might not be the best sprinter in the field, but in terms of overall endurance, he can follow anybody and make the moves to break away.
And Cutters moving themselves back into the front. Still is Jacob Kuhn, who's got himself on the bicycle.
It looks like Tau Epsilon Phi on the backstretch is gearing up for an exchange. They're about a half lap back from that crash, trying to catch back up. Good bike-to-bike exchange, getting back on the bike. Again, they need to work with somebody before they get lapped to get back into this race.
It looks like
Alpha Sigma Phi now going out for a big old burn. They have a bike ready in the pit going around turn 3.
No mark here, and it's going to be a big chance for Barry to get a bit of a stretch here.
This is exactly what ASIG wanted. Not one of those top 2 pre-race favorites. Not being marked. Great burn. Tag. There's the exchange. Jump on that bike. Clean, and he could just filter back in right when AK Sai makes another exchange, another good burn. Let's see if he jumps on. He'll filter into the back of the pack. Great first exchanges by Alpha Kappa Psi and Alpha Sigma Phi.
Carson Heath gets on the bike for ASIG. He's their number 15 time trialist. Individual time trialist, I should say. Number 2 rider on that team. Getting on the bike is John Bularelli for AK Psi.
And here comes, it looks like Kai Phi and Hunter Eisler making a burn.
They're going to be marked here, or at least trying to get a draft following up behind them.
Is that Beta Sigma Psi coming around?
It looks like it is.
Here comes Beta Sig making a full lap burn.
Cutters as well, preparing for an exchange here. I think
so here come the top teams making exchanges. Beta Sigma Psi.
Ooh, a bit of a collision there between these 2 riders.
Kai Phi and Pi Kappa Alpha, some bad communication. That is one thing to really pay attention to this race is when teams exchange next to each other, how do they communicate? We saw it yesterday in the women's race with Kappa Alpha Theta and CSF. Some bad communication, crashes happened and ruined both of their races, and it looked like the same thing happened with Kai Phi and Pike.
Looks like it's going to be Peyton Gaskell preparing to come on the bike for Cutters in a moment.
Here comes Beta Sigma Psi and Go Cycling, and then 3PH all exchanging at the same time.
Oh, Cutter's making an exchange
Cutter's making a crazy move for an exchange. Not the best burn there, but here comes Peyton Gaskell. There's senior rider on Riders Council. This pack is spreading out like a rubber band.
Phi-Psi also preparing for an exchange, as is
Delts.
SIGEP, as is SAE.
Delts is coming in for an exchange on the backstretch here. Let's see what happens.
Looks good on the backstretch.
They're getting back on, but the pack is splitting up as Sigma Phi Epsilon is in the lead right now.
Yeah, SIGEP and SAE both making exchanges here on this turn 1 pits.
SIGEP coming in, SAE coming in, but Phi-Psi stays out. They bluffed it, and Phi-Psi has a gap now with Fiji chasing him. This could be an early, unexpected move from Phi-Psi as SAE and SIGEP get back onto the bike, and they're back in the pack.
Rhett Skvarna getting on the bike for SAE, but it is going to be a massive opportunity for Phi-Psi to pull off. Trying to chase them down is Fiji. Those 2 have about a half straightaway edge over the rest of the chasing pack after some exchanges made by the other contending teams.
Phi-Psi with a huge gap right now. What a great burn +1, meaning that they went an extra lap to get that gap. They have about a straightaway and a half gap on this field now. Phi-Psi coming in for the exchange.
Etmeyer comes off for Cooper. And on the other end, it's Gudeman off for Jake Herendeen. And those
two
teams
strong
good.
riders. If Fasai wants to, they can make a little break for
They're
it.
not going to.
It looks like they're just going to ride tempo and give this next rider a nice early first lap start into the race to get his legs warmed up as the pack comes by.
So why right there for Faisai? You have a huge edge right there. Are you not pushing that one after you make the exchange? He's falling right back into this lead lap.
If you make that move at lap 21 of the race, you are committing yourself to pain for the next 2 hours. And again, Faisai, they're a good team. They are not as deep as they have been. And they, I think, made the smart decision to say, look, we made a good strategic move. Our next rider is safe and in the pack, fresh. Let's keep it that way. As Nova Cycling with a good burn, again, unmarked. Their pit is on the backstretch over there, qualifying 18th. Great burn from them. They're coming in for the exchange.
Let's take a brief.
This will be a single bike exchange. Rider starts running. Excuse me, it is a 2-bike exchange. They're back on and back into this pack.
Let's take a brief pause on the action. Down track side, Abby Haymond is with President Pamela Witten.
That's right. Thanks, guys. I am here with President Pamela Witten of IU, and this is your second year here experiencing Little 5. The energy, the atmosphere, it's almost indescribable. How are you feeling that race day is finally here?
It is a special day. It's Little 5 weekend in Bloomington, Indiana. It doesn't get better than this.
You're right. Such a crazy experience. And this is just such a special experience here. Talk to me about what happens, how this event is so important to Indiana, to IU.
Well, there is no place that you go in the state of Indiana where people don't know what you mean when you say Little 5. It's just it's part of our DNA. It's who we are, and you feel it creeping up on you in April, and then the weekend hits, and the place just blows up. It's so much fun.
That's right. Thank you so much. Back up to you guys.
Some great stuff from Pam Witten right there. We have a big move here, though. Cutters with a bit of a burn up front, not being chased too tightly by Sigap walking through that, Hank.
Peyton Gaskill just shocked the field and went up for an early burn. He's only been on the bike for about 7 to 8 laps now, but on that last lap, he tried to make an exchange. The bike was not ready, had to make an extra lap. His legs are burning up with lactic acid, and as he comes in for the exchange, it should be clean, but the pack and Sigma Phi Epsilon have already caught them, and they do not have as big of a gap as they would want it, as their main sprinter, Torian Cray-Mayor, comes back on, and Sigma Phi Epsilon has a solo lead. And we can tell just from the alarm bells that went off from that SIGAP rider, they are marking one team and one team only, and that is Cutters.
They were not willing to have that happen. Falling back in, though, is SIGAP after that. They've now got Cray Maywar on the bike. Still no Judah Thompson. They've gotten only to 3 out of their 4 for Cutters in that top team. Going up front, I think it looks to be for a burn.
Here comes Phi Gamma Delta Fiji.
Yeah, they're not making an exchange, though. They're just trying to burn off the front.
There is no rider ready for them in the pit. And that Fiji rider is confused. He is soft pedaling out front now.
Yeah.
Does not really know what to do. I think he expected.
He's got down, pats down towards the ground from his pit. They're saying slow back down, get back in the pack. I think he burned a bit too excessively there.
And that might just be early race nerves from that rider. You know, you have trained all year for this race, and you want to show everybody what you got early on, but it's a long race. It's a 2-hour, 15-minute race. Slow it down. Save your legs for later when it's needed.
Let's give you a full reset of the field and where we're at right now. In 33rd, Phi Sigma Kappa will go from 33rd to 1st. Wild Aces, Tau Epsilon Phi, Army, Human Wheels, Pi Kappa Alpha, Alpha Kappa Lambda, Grey Goat, Beta Theta Pi, Chi Phi, Chinzano, Forest, CSF Cycling, 3PH, IUDM, Beta Sigma Psi, Alpha Kappa Psi, Phi Delta Theta. Some massive moves there, throwing me off a little bit. In 13th now is Phi Kappa Psi, Ghost Cycling in 12th, Alpha Kappa Psi, Bears, Sigma Alpha Epsilon, Phi Delta Theta, Alpha Sigma Psi, Alpha Sigma Phi, Sigma Phi Epsilon, Chi Alpha, Phi Gamma Delta, Cutters, Delta Tau Delta, and Evans Scholars as things stand. 26 laps have been scored. Hank, can you believe we're only 1/8 through this race? It's been incredible so far.
Time flies when you're having fun, Jack.
So no real exchanges in this near side pits. We got Chinzano preparing for an exchange probably on the next lap here, but they're trying to get back into the lead pack.
So when you're looking at the pack right now, you see it looks like Chinzano's preparing for an exchange, but when you look at the pack right now, they are about 4 to 5 wide at times. This means that the pack is not going quickly at all. That riders are okay taking that win because they're not using that much effort. when you see the pack stretch out like a rubber band and go single file, that is when those riders are in that pain cave trying to just hold that wheel in front of them. But that Cutters rider, Torin, he is looking around just waiting for somebody to pull. And it is pretty slow at this moment.
It is indeed. Torin Cray-Maywar on for Cutters. It looks like Sigap is going to make an exchange here. I'm going to point up one finger.
Nova's cycling. It looks like they're trying to burn, but the pack is just holding on to them as they finally get a gap. But Sigma Nu with a great burn, flying out in front of this pack. Sigma Nu has been an impressive team early on for me.
Got an exchange here in the back stretch.
Rider exchange, single bike, runs, gets the bike, jumps on.
Looks good.
Great form, get up to speed. I would get out of saddle if I were him. He's not. That's okay because he has the great gap in front of the pack to just soft pedal, coast back in.
SAE also making a bit of a burn here, trying to catch up. Following them tightly though is Delta Tau Delta. They don't have somebody prepped for an exchange. They're just marking that, as is Torin behind him. They're not pushing back into the inside.
Here comes an SAE. How well can they make this exchange? A little bit rough. Good recovery on the bike.
Lucas Lemia is the man getting on the bike.
He needs to catch up to the pack very quickly. He's behind a little bit, but he'll do that fine. Just as we say that, Sigma Phi Epsilon, Sigap in that black jersey, they are going out for a massive burn, and Cutters kind of chasing them, but not wanting to use that much effort.
Yeah.
So Sigap with a great burn as they go on to make an exchange on lap 29.
Max Martin prepping to get onto the bicycle for them. And it is Cutters. They're trying to take advantage of the brief exchange time. Kai-Fi also making an exchange. They're getting back into the race there.
Cutters making a big move right now, knowing that Sigap is making an exchange and back off. So they are splitting the field. It is Cutters, Fiji, and it looks like Kai Alpha in front of the field. And they now sit up a little bit, knowing that nobody is a threat. But again, they're just playing with the field. You kind of know what teams to look out for, which teams made that gap, which ones didn't. So watch out for Fiji and Kai Alpha later in this race because they're the only two teams that were able to follow Cutters on that little push.
We got an Alpha Kappa Psi burn as well. Cray-Maywar is using that to get a bit of leverage. Man, they are going wide here. And we're seeing Torin up front is dominating that. We've got coming into the race for the first time, Peter Schultz is coming on. And man, Cray-Maywar is letting it kind of spread back out, get a little bit wider, almost 3 bikers wide, and now going on the outside. Looks like it's Beta Sig making a move on the outside.
And one thing that we missed a few laps ago.
Looks like they're making a bit of a push there, but I don't think they're going for an exchange here. I think they're just going for a burn. Beta Sig making a big push out in the front.
You are absolutely right, Jack.
No one marking. Or I misidentified them there. I have indeed.
That is Delta Sigma Pi up front there.
Yeah.
And Cutters makes an exchange kind of behind the pack.
Yeah, Judah Thompson coming on the bike. His first time on the bicycle.
That was not a great burn by Torin.
Yeah, that was a bit of an interesting
Judah,
one.
he'll be fine catching back up, but using a little bit more energy than he would like as Delta Sigma Pi comes in for an exchange on the backstretch.
As is Delta Tau
Cat
Delta.
makes the tag. And Human Wheels gets caught up with the outgoing rider from Delta Sigma Pi.
Oh,
and
man.
they are caught up behind. He recovered, he's fine, but he lost a few seconds of time right there. Crucial time that he could have used to catch up to that pack in front of him.
Judah Thompson chasing back up in for Cutters.
3PH leading out this pack. Are they burning or just pulling now?
Ben Baines, he missed last year's race with a broken collarbone. He's up in front right now. They haven't got someone prepped for an exchange in this near corner. He's just pulling at the very front of the pack. Right behind him is Phi Delta Theta.
But here comes a bike in that 3PH pit down in turn 4.
Looks like it's going to be Rishi Poludasu who's getting ready to come on the bicycle for them. And ASIG is also readying themselves for an exchange.
This pack is spreading out. You have Phi Delta right behind them. Phi-Sci, SIGAP, SAE, Fiji chasing as well. Phi-Sci coming in for an exchange, but there are some great teams following them. And Max Martin says, you're not getting any gap here. I'm taking that lead from you.
Phi-Sci makes an exchange as well. Get on the bike, Albert Schaefer.
This field is marking everyone today. This makes it an exciting race because nobody's getting any gap.
No gap at all for anybody here. The wind is still kicking in, being a huge factor. We had an early crash on lap 2 or 3. We've been knock on wood, don't want a commentator's curse here, relatively clean since. Judah Thompson going on the outside, making a big move. SAE and SIGEP, the top 3 in that exact order right now.
Oh, and it looks like SAE almost overlapped wheels with SIGEP.
That would have been huge.
That was a close move. When you are a cyclist, you need to put your front wheel in a safe position. That SAE rider did not do that. Luckily, nothing came out of it, but that was dangerous.
Front 8 riders are all strung out. Now slowing down is Judah Thompson, and he's allowing riders to go past him.
And here comes Fiji with a
Yep.
big burn. Nobody following. It really looks like Cutters and SIGEP are just eyeing each other, looking
Yeah.
at each other. They say, Fiji, if you want to go for it, because we know that we're the strongest teams today.
And now Fiji preparing for an exchange. Coming on the bike, Will Barashim. Coming off of it is Jake Herendine. They bring on the rookie rider, the sophomore, in his first race.
Exchanges are an interesting concept. There are 2 types of exchanges. You have bike-to-bike that we just saw with Fiji and single bike. Single bike exchanges are faster. You gain about 2 to 3 seconds per exchange, but they're much riskier, and you see a lot of teams, especially early on in the race, use bike-to-bike exchanges just to simply safely get back in the pack, not risk it. Phi Delta Theta, looks like teams are marking them oddly enough.
They have that yellow jersey. It's got a bit of flash to it, got a bit of attraction.
It puts a mark on your back. Fidel is trying to burn, but Judah Thompson, Max Martin, and Lucas Lemmy on their tails, not letting them get any room at all.
As is Josh Herbst on the bike for Delta Tau Delta.
And this pack has split up. You have a front pack of about 8 riders, and then about
Crash on the backstretch. Oh, that's a fun. That's SIGEP who's down right there.
SIGEP is down on the backstretch. This is alarm bells going off for them, and the pack knows it too.
They're back on the bike, and they're trying to catch themselves back up. The bike looks functional, but they're preparing for an exchange. They're saying just hustle back.
And who has not gotten on the bike yet for SIGEP is Drew Gavette, so he is preparing to get the bike.
He's gotta
will
wait.
they have time to get the bike over into the pit?
I'm not sure they will.
Cutters, Delts, SAE all pushing the pace. As Max Martin goes another lap because the bike isn't ready. They are suffering right now. This is trouble for SIGEP at lap 38 in the race.
Yeah, huge crash in 38. We'll get you a replay if we can at some point of what happened in the backstretch back there, or at least some insight. Phi Delta Theta looks like they got caught up with them back there.
SIGEP still about a straightaway back from the pack, but Judah Thompson has not pulled off yet. He is using his energy to pull away. He does not care about saving energy right now. He knows what his role is, and it is to ride long, hard laps as SIGEP is exchanging behind the pack right now to Drew Gavette. Let's see what he can do. He is a senior rider, Riders Council Secretary, a top 10 rider in the field. Not the best mount from him.
He's got an entire straightaway practically, maybe even a little bit more, trying to catch up. But Judah Thompson not pushing things too hard at the front. Herbst is rounding him on the outside to take the first position, and he's pulling out front for Delta Tau Delta.
If I'm the pack right now, I push it as hard as possible because you have the number 2 team in the field down a straightaway and a half right now. This is big for them. Josh Herbst, though, not going that hard.
And SAE waves off an exchange. I think we might try and see Skvarn, I believe, is on the bike. Maybe it's Lemmy's on the bike. Try and make a push here. We've seen SIGEP, who was quite a distance behind after their crash in the backstretch.
He is catching up, though, slowly but surely.
SAE is going to be marked by both Delta Tau Delta, and Judah Thompson's going to fall in behind Herbst. They're going to make an exchange here on the near side.
SAE, a clean race so far. I am happy to see that. They are a strong team, and if they can stay clean, they can be there to the end. Good burn. Coming into the pit, bike to bike, they need to slow down, tag,
A little
up
strong.
and back on. Good exchange from them.
They're bringing on Skvarna onto the bicycle. Coming off was Lemmy.
And now Ghost Cycling out for an exchange as this big pack comes back together as it slows down a little bit.
Yeah, Ghost Cycling pulling off on the front.
Nobody marking Ghost.
In the back stretch, making an
Great
exchange.
burn from them. So they're coming around turn 3. Their pit is outside of turn 4, so you'll see him cut to the outside a little bit in a second. But it looks like that wind is tearing him apart. He does not look like he's in a good place. But he is getting off the bike right now, thankfully. Tries to make the tag up. Good burn.
Zach, let me ask you something. In terms of pit location, who's got the best spot in terms of not having to deal with that wind as much?
That depends on who you ask, honestly. I am always a fan of wanting to get the best initial burn as possible to get that wheel off of me. And for that, I want to burn on the front stretch with that tailwind and have a pit on the back stretch by turn 3, right where Delta 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 and Chi Alpha are.
Yeah.
The traditional sentiment is having a pit on the front stretch because there are more stands, more contending teams out there. But with this wind, I want to get the wheels off of me and be in that turn 3 pit.
AK Sai is making a bit of a burn here. We also haven't seen Cutters prepping themselves for an exchange. They're not breaking themselves out of the pack too much. They're kind of boxed in right now. AK Sai making an exchange, though. It'll be Dylan Bushell coming on the bike. Peter Schultz, former Indiana football offensive lineman, coming off of it. Tom's going to maybe want to try and break himself out.
And it looks like Sigma Phi Epsilon has caught back up to the pack. They are back in it. Now they used a heck of a lot of energy getting back up there, but kudos to Drew Gavette for getting in a tough situation the first set of his little 500 over almost a half lap down, getting back up solo in the pack, safe.
22 bikes are on the lead lap as of right now. That's a humongous lead lap. Nearing in on 50 laps in the race here today on lap 44 as things stand. Making a bit of a burn, not being marked as Phi Psi. And actually, they're going to do another one. This is the second time now, Hank, that they're doing this fake 1 extra lap burn.
And this is something to test the field on if they are really marking them or not. We saw last year they were marking them like a hawk because they had an Andrew Laval on that team. This year, they don't, and the field is letting them have that space, and that might be a little bit of a precursor to later in the race when they might go for it. We'll see.
They've got a strong lead as well. CSF cycling in a good spot as well. They were the lap leaders last time out. They're going to make an exchange this time, though, for sure. Phi Psi, they're only going to do 1 lap here.
It looks like Chi Phi and CSF are hanging out there in front. They are behind right now.
Well, CSF's way out in front.
CSF is on the lead lap right now.
Not even. They've got their own little island going off and entering into turn 2 right now.
Completely unmarked. And they are not exchanging, it doesn't look like. If nothing else, they're getting a heck of a lot of FaceTime.
Yeah.
Getting their team name out there, Christian Student Fellowship up on Eagleson Avenue, or David Baker Avenue. Good for them to be up front with a great early race move. We'll see how it turns out.
Yeah, it is CSF. They're using a bit of a draft on Chi Phi back there. That's going to be, see the blue and orange flag coming out here. On the bike right now, Steven Song. Song was on NEH last year. Nick's English Hut, the only team that didn't qualify. Steven Song was on that group. He's getting a chance to race in his first little 500, a second time in the process, but he's way out in front.
Absolutely proud of him from coming back from last year, not qualifying in 34th, coming back with CSF, riding in his race, getting this experience.
And they're way out in front.
CSF is still up there, and if nothing else, they are in a safe position.
Looks like they might be prepping for an exchange, but it looks like they are going to do an exchange here in just a moment.
No risk of a crash. They're by themselves. He's not even pedaling that hard. This is a great little move by CSF.
Cutter's making an exchange as well, getting back on the bike. Is Jacob Kuhn, their leader, getting back, or their first biker, I should say, getting back on the bike for the second time.
One interesting thing about the Cutters exchanges so far is their burns have not been that great. I don't even know if Judah really did burn there.
ASIG burn as well. They're trying to come back up into the front.
And here comes Alpha Sigma 5. We can show them coming around turn 3, right behind Phi Gamma Delta in those orange jerseys. Fiji with a massive burn in front of this pack. Great job from them.
Yeah, Fiji and ASIG both making exchanges here. Coming on the bike.
Fiji to Max Raynor. He's going to have a much easier time getting back in the pack than other riders in this field. And Beta Sigma Psi now going up in front. But Fiji looks like they're trying to hook on to Beta Sig's wheel, and they might be making a move here with Beta Sig.
Beta Sig is making an exchange in this near side.
But Max Raynor and Fiji, a fresh rider, if he can keep out in front, again, they tried this in 2021 early in the race. They made a lap 50 attack, tried to lap the field, came back. Again, later in the race in 2021, tried to do it solo, came back. This is a team that likes to go long.
Yeah, Raynor looks over his shoulder, looking back at the lead pack. He's letting them come back in after a bit of a straightaway lead.
A smart decision. not a fun decision, but a smart decision from Fiji.
Well, we mentioned Peter Schultz of AK Psi, a former football player for this football team. Let's talk now to the head football coach at Indiana. He's with Evan Kamikow.
Thanks, Jack. Here with a very special guest, Tom Allen, Indiana head football coach. Coach, how special is it to be here today?
A lot of fun. Just a great organization here, all these different groups, and what a great tradition. Love to be a part of it. Awesome day.
And you got some more meaning in this. One of your former players, Peter Schultz, is riding for Alpha Kappa Psi. How proud of him are you right now?
So proud. You know, it's the first time since I've been here we've had a player in the race, and he's trained so hard. He's lost 40 pounds since the season to get in great shape, but he's just tough, and I love him.
And I want to ask you about the similarities between football and cycling. What comparisons can you make? Why would football background be so good for Peter right now in this race?
Well, there's the mental toughness piece. You know, that's a huge part. The teamwork, you know, all the training that goes into it, and it's just realizing that you're one of 4 guys out there. You're relying on those other men to do their job, and it's a team game. So that's what it's all about. So it's really cool.
Do we think we could potentially see you on a bike at some point in your future?
You know, I love to ride, so you never know. It may happen.
Awesome. Well, the last question I'm going to ask, then we'll let you go, is this atmosphere is so incredible. Why do you think that the students are going to be just like this at Memorial Stadium come this fall for football season?
Well, you know, we got an awesome group of guys, and we're just going to keep on battling. And we got some new faces for sure, but the work ethic's tremendous. These guys have come together, and we're going to have a really good football team. And so I believe in that, and our kids believe in that, and we just need to support because it matters. Loud and proud, and maybe, you know, impacts the game, you know. And so the third down emphasis, you know, and being able to, the team not be able to hear the signals and those different things, it impacts us. So I just appreciate the support, and they've been awesome to us, and I just want them to come out, support us, and cheer on the Hoosiers.
Well, Coach, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your race day and cheering on Peter. Can we get one LEO for the fans?
Yes, LEO on 3. LEO, baby.
Awesome. Jack, back to you.
Appreciate it, Evan. Good to see head coach Tom Allen supporting his guys. A lot of big things to watch out for. We see a SIGEP exchange right here. Chi Alpha pulling off on the front, trying to make a big burn. Cutters had a brief moment where they were pulling at the front, but it's Chi Alpha currently who are making an exchange in the backstretch. Delta Tau Delta also made one.
And there's a big crash in turn 2. 10, 12, 15 riders down. It is massive. Phi Psi is down. Ghost is down. Phi Sigma Kappa's down. Chinzano's down.
Turn 2 again is a massive thing.
They hit that headwind coming from the west. Alpha Sigma Phi's down. They are still down. I don't know if they have the bike on the track right now. They don't look like they're running a bike over.
No.
This is awful strategy right now. They're still running a bike over, and they're about to be lapped in a second. Alpha Sigma Phi sprinting through the infield, making that tag. Their rider is down.
Grayson Welsh is the guy who was on the
And
bike
here
for
comes
ASIG.
ASIG back onto the bike, but they're still not on the bike. They're getting passed by the pack a lap down. Their race is coming into shambles right now.
Yellow flag. It's a yellow flag. We'll take a breather here, try and reset things, but it's a yellow flag right now. Things will not move forward because it was ASIG was definitely the team that had by far the toughest time of it in that far corner. I mean, we saw guys go down and then a flip almost over the top of it. A really dangerous situation in that turn 2 for a second time. For the first time, it hit almost into the boards against where the fans sit. This time round, it was almost on the inside about we'll get you the exact numbers on how many teams went down there, but it was Phi Psi. A lot of teams going down. Phi Psi, a good almost 3/4 of a lap behind things. Man, we got some tough scenes out here, but the flag is still yellow. Teams not expected to move too far forward in comparison to the leader.
So right now, the major teams that went down are Phi Kappa Psi. They are about a half lap down, and then Alpha Sigma Phi, they had to race a bike and a rider over across the track. They are over a lap down from the field right now.
And in terms of what the yellow flag means, it means that teams cannot advance further in comparison to the leader. They cannot advance themselves closer than they were when the yellow flag went.
Yes, this pack does not bunch up at all. They have to stay right where they were when that yellow flag hit in comparison to the leader. So right now, that leader on the track, I believe, is Chi Alpha.
It is indeed.
That white and blue team just in front of the pack. But you see Phi Kappa Psi a half lap back and Alpha Sigma Phi over a lap back. They cannot catch up. They have to make this junction by themselves or find a rider around them to make it work. And Alpha Sigma Phi with Connor Berry, their star rider on the bike, he is going to make a huge effort, not to just get back to the pack to get one lap down, but to make another lap up to get back on terms with the leaders. So it looks like they're still cleaning up this mess over in turn 2.
Phi-Sci is still on the lead lap. They're not terribly far behind. CSF as well. CSF, I guess, was involved in that crash as well. They were a team who had a lead for a good chunk of time there. We still are on yellow, waiting ourselves to see when we're going to move back to green. I think we're seeing maybe yep, we're back
and
on green.
Here goes the green flag.
All right, we are back.
Sigma Phi Epsilon just pulling right ahead of everybody, wanting to push this. They do not want ASIG or Phi-Sci back in this race.
ASIG, so they're a lap and change behind right now in terms of where they're at. Man, that was a tough one right there. You see the leaders right there, Chi Alpha, Beta Sigma Psi, Cutters, and Sigma Alpha Epsilon, and IUDM. And from 29th, they're in 5th right now.
Now, we saw in 2021, Phi Kappa Psi, they had 2 early crashes, and they got over a lap down just as ASIG is right now. They came back up, unlapped themselves, and got a lap up on the field. We'll see if ASIG and Connor Berry can do this today, as it looks like Alpha Sigma Phi is about to catch up back to this pack to get 1 lap down. Phi Kappa Psi still about a straightaway and a half down, working with, it looks like Bears, who are on the lead lap, working with Cinzano.
Cinzano was also involved in that first crash. Unsure if they were involved in the second crash here on the day.
3PH is in that little chase pack too. They're trying to catch back up, but this pack right now
not moving too crazy.
Is not moving at all, and I cannot fathom why that is when you have a team like Phi Kappa Psi in their history trying to catch back up.
ASIG, they made a few, I mean, twice though, I guess to be the devil's advocate there, Hank, twice though, they made big burns, an extra lap burn, and no one tracked them. So they almost maybe are allowing them to get right back in towards the base of this group.
Absolutely. And the team to watch for the next 50 laps will be those gray jerseys of Alpha Sigma Phi to see if they can and how they can unlap themselves, because I guarantee you there will be more of those burns +1s, +2s to try to get out in the field. It looks like right now, again, those top teams, SIGEP and Cutters, are just looking at each other and not anybody else.
Sigma Nu made an exchange. They were currently out front. They had a bit of a burn there. Fidel is also doing a burn here. They're being tracked by Fiji. Fiji's preparing for an exchange on this near side. Fidel on the far side, probably
Fiji
themselves.
with a great race so far, some great burns as Fidel just goes flying by everybody.
On the bike is Quinn Peterson. Coming onto the bike for Phi Gamma Delta is John Gudeman. Gudeman trying to get himself back into the group. Beta Sig passing them, as is SIGEP. Delta Tau Delta comes on the inside as well. On the far side, Fidel makes an exchange as well. We see that on the screen right now as they are trying to make themselves get back into the lead group. Also pulling out now in the front now is AK Psi.
AK Psi, a quiet contender so far in this field. Again, only 60 laps scored, but they are up in the lead making that exchange.
Garrett Cortese was the man on the bike for Alpha Sigma Psi. Tent says he's okay. Good news that he is okay. We'll see if he races again, but that was tough.
If he can be back on that bike, ASIG is not out of this. If he cannot race again today, it makes their life a lot harder.
AK Psi makes an exchange. Pulling out on the front is Evan Scholars, I believe, again.
Some very smart racing from Evan Scholars today. They are a team that we don't mention much in this race, but qualifying 27th.
2 returning riders.
They are on this lead lap. They've made good burns. Kudos to Evan Scholars for being in this race.
ASIG is with the lead pack, but they're a lap behind. They're not on the lead lap. You see them kind of about 10th or so on the outside. On the front, pulling things is SIGEP, preparing for an exchange as well.
So right now, for these top teams, the SIGEPs, the Cutters, the Fijis, they are wanting to save their energy until something big happens. There was a lot of drama in those first 60 laps. They want to start slowing down, saving for the big moments later in the race.
Dan Lin of CSF Cycling still under examination. The CSF was part of that big crash about 5-10 laps ago now at this point. Exchange on the far side, you can see it with Nova Cycling. The strongest of exchanges there. We're seeing a massive pull here on the front.
And here comes Alpha Sigma Psi. They are not going to exchange. This is their first attempt at unlapping themselves. Let's see how far Connor Berry can go. Again, he made a big effort to just catch back up to the pack after the crash. And he ran a half mile, or not a half mile, a quarter mile across the field to even get that bike on the track. He might be going a few more laps. Again, they are still not on the lead lap, but they're trying to unlap themselves.
Let's go down now to Abby Heyman, who has more on the crash about 10 laps ago.
That's right. Thanks, guys. We just saw a massive crash over here. 15 riders. We have Garrett Cortese from ASIG who injured his shoulder. He was carted off, taken to the examination tent, but he is okay. He is back in his pit. And then we also had Dan Lin from CFS. It was his hip that appeared to be injured. He was also carted off, and he is currently being examined in the medical tent. We will provide an update on him as soon as possible. This is all coming in at the turn 2 because of this wind coming this way. It's also starting to drizzle. It's just providing a very rough environment over there in turn 2. So hopefully we don't see too much else from over there, but that's where it's gonna be if there is. Back up to you guys.
Yeah, big crash down. Oh, in pit 32. Thank you, Abby, for that. We had a crash again in turn 2 right after she says it. In pit 32, I should say.
And that looked like a bunch of exchanges coming in at the same time while the pack's going across. It looked like Novus is involved. CSF might have been involved in that. But again, turn 2 with that wind coming in from the west.
And she mentions the drizzle, too. We can't feel it up here in the press box, but man.
And ASIG is still about a half a straightaway up, about 50 or 60 meters in front of this pack, trying to unlap themselves, but Cinzano burning, Cutter's right behind them, IUDM still up there on the lead lap, Kyle right behind them. This pack is pushing, and it does not look like ASIG is getting any room as they make an exchange, and they're about to be a lap down again as the pack comes up and chases them.
They're getting on the bike, Carson Heath. It was good news, though, from Abbott. They've got Cortese back in the pit. If they can keep him around the number 10 ITT placer, you got a pair of top 10 guys. They were a team we pegged as a potential team that could surprise some folks. Interesting to see what happens moving forward. Cutters were the lead team after that last lap. 65 laps under our belt. We've had 2 huge crashes, about a 7-8 team crash, a 15 team crash. We've had a few pit crashes. A bit of a messy race, especially with these 30-mile-an-hour gusts that can hit you in your face as you're coming into turn 2. Still 19 teams on the lead lap, so it's been a bit of a slow race in that sense. It's SIG-EP, Cutters, and FiSci. FiSci are back in things. They've gotten themselves right back into it. Carson Etnire's on the bike for them. Going on the outside, trying to make a bit of a move forward as Lambda Chi Alpha, first time saying their name. They are in the lead lap.
Jack, you mentioned these winds coming out from the west. What happens is when the wind hits the front of the peloton, the lead riders that are pushing get hit with that wind and all slow down, and you have this accordion effect throughout the pack where it widens out, gets bunched up, because those riders in the back, they don't feel it. They keep going, and that's when a rub of wheels can happen and crashes occur, as we see Bears coming out with a burn right now.
Yeah, Bears making a massive burn right there. They are currently leading things. They're pushing themselves, trying to make an exchange in the back stretch. Let's give you a field reset, a bit of a lengthier one at this time. Chi Phi, Phi Sigma Kappa, Tau Epsilon Phi, Wild Aces, Army, Alpha Kappa Lambda, Human Wheels, Pi Kappa Alpha, Beta Theta Pi, Delta Sigma Pi are the bottom 10 teams, a lot of them victim of some crashes. Grey Goat was in that first crash earlier in the race. Cinzano, Alpha Sigma Phi, 3PH, CSF Cycling, Novus Cycling, Lambda Chi Alpha, Evan Scholars, Sigma Nu and Forest Cycling, Ghost Cycling, Alpha Kappa Psi, and Beta Sigma Psi in 11th. And now let's give your top 10. Sigma Alpha Epsilon, Phi Delta Theta in a good spot. Cutters in 8th place. IUDM, Phi Gamma Delta. A lot of changes here on the board. Let's give you top 5. Delta Tau Delta, Cutters, Phi Kappa Psi, Sigma Alpha Epsilon, Sigma Phi Epsilon are your 1 through 5 in that order. Making a burnout in the front is Delta Tau Delta, preparing for an exchange in the backstretch. Chasing them down is Cutters, as well as Phi Kappa Psi, Sigma Phi Epsilon, and SAE in behind them, Chi Alpha, and then Phi Delta, Fiji behind them as well.
Cutter's gearing up for an exchange right now without a gap as FiSci and SIG-EP keep pushing. Judah Thompson back on the bike for them. Again, a great freshman rider, but they're putting him in tough situations early as FiSci and SIG-EP up big on the pack. FiSci looking to exchange on this next lap. SIG-EP not a rider in the pit yet.
SAE also made an exchange, and they're also trying to catch themselves back up. But this is interesting for SIG-EP if they can try and make a big push here.
If I'm SIG-EP right now, after that crash and big effort by Drew Gavette, I sit up, I make this exchange coming up and try to rest because, again, it's a long race and they have already used a lot of energy. Looks like Will Pitts giving the tongue out signal to the pit that he's going to exchange next lap. Again, with a huge gap on the field, he can just kind of coast around for an exchange next lap and still put his next rider in good position.
Caleb Cooper on for Carson Ettenmeyer. They're the team in second place as SIGEP makes a huge burn. They've got a near entire straight lead on things. Pitts is on the bike.
And a good exchange from CSF. Again, they were involved in that crash earlier. They're trying to catch back up.
Here is Pitts coming in for Alex Hamilton. He's the man trying to come on the bike, their sophomore rookie. Decently clean exchange. He's on the bike. AK Sai also making an exchange.
Just look at how safely and softly he can come back into this pack. As I say this, he's making a move right now, isn't he?
Yeah, he's pushing off on the front.
He does not want to come into that pack. That head is going down, and that means he is hurting.
Ooh.
He's making a move. Jack, we've got ourselves a little race on our hands.
We do indeed. He's got himself a half straightaway edge. SIGEP making a bit of a move right here. They've got them a lot
Forget
of
what I
daylight.
said about sitting in. They're using Alex Hamilton as the man with a gap to go hard, I would say, for another 4 or 5 laps. And just as I say that, the pit is telling him to soften up and slow down. But it doesn't look like he is. I saw that the pit and the coaches were giving him the hands down, slow down signal.
Am I overthinking this? That they're trying to see other teams see him do that? Because his head is down. He is not going slow.
He is in that pain cave. I would give him another 2 to 3 laps max on this bike before they go to a rider like Drew Gavette or maybe Max Martin to extend this lead. This is a move, Jack. This is happening.
Kai Alpha making an exchange to the number 2 team, and Delts talking to Cutters and Fiji up in the lead group. Cutters sliding in a little bit.
And so far, the pack has not really realized what they're doing.
And they're prepping an exchange. Man, this is totally a move from SIGEP.
Yeah, looks like Max Martin's coming on next, but you have Cutters 5 back. You have Delts not pulling. You have Fiji and Faisai trying to pick up the pace, but those are not the teams that need to be doing this. Cutters and Delts will need to be up near the front to catch this move.
11-second gap currently.
An 11-second gap, as Jack said. This move is not coming down any time. And it looks like, is he doing another lap?
They want a bike exchange. He's not going to get it off
He's
in time.
doing one more lap. He
Yeah.
wants to come out, but he can't because there's no bike yet there.
That's the second time now that they've been a little slow with getting the bike across the track, and they haven't been able to get it to go.
We have seen over the past couple of days in the women's race some faulty exchanges, bad strategy, and today in the men's race, again, this rider wants to come out. You can see his butt. Look at his arm straight out like an arrow. His head is dropping down every couple pedal strokes. He wants to come out as soon as possible.
14-second lead. That's more than a straightaway right now for SIGEP. This is a huge moment for them at lap 75. But hey, you mentioned it. I asked at 25. They got 125 laps, so they're going to be suffering if they decide to go with this train of thinking. And Cinzano almost getting in a little bit of an awkward situation there, but it's going to be an exchange. Coming onto the bicycle is Max Martin. Alex Hamilton coming off of it after a very strong showing.
Right now, the pack is letting them dangle a little bit, which I think is a great strategy because they
not chasing him down?
They only have about a straightaway gap, maybe a tad bit more. Right now, you have 124 laps to go in this race. At this point, you need to get the lap up on the field or you need to get back in the pack because it is a windy race. Just as Teeter did yesterday, you are out there suffering, burning your matches one by one while these teams in the pack can rest up. Max Martin is not sitting up. He's trying to go for it, but if they need to go now. And Brian Gavette, the coach for SIGEP, is giving him that finger forward, say go as fast as you can.
Man, they got their pair of rookies making some big moves here. They had Pitts come off for Hamilton. He brought it on Martin.
Here
Fiji
comes
exchange.
Fiji making an exchange. Let's see if they can get back in the pack. Outgoing rider goes down. That doesn't matter because the rider on the track is on the bike, back in the pack.
Yeah, Gudeman left it all out there. He was exhausted getting up off of that one. A big set for him.
Cutters and Judah Thompson starting to push, and that pack, as you see, is getting single-filed, splitting up. There are many gaps forming, and if you are not on the right side of the gap, that is your race going away in front of you like that.
They're a half lap behind Sigma Phi.
And Sigma Phi Epsilon now with about
they're making another
a
exchange.
half lap ahead. And is this Drew Gavette coming on next for SIGEP? So
dangerous times.
SIGEP might be trying to complete this lap, and guess who's after Drew Gavette? Will Pitts, one of the top sprinters in the race. So if they can go to Drew Gavette, have him do 5 to 7 laps of hard racing, and then Will Pitts at the end, right now the pack is pushing, but they're not pushing that hard. Sigap was still less than a half lap now because of that exchange, but that gap is going to come up very quickly.
Here is Drew Gavette, senior in his 3rd race. There's only 16 guys in the field who have their on their 3rd race. Only 4 guys are juniors doing that. Will Pitts is one of those guys who couldn't come back next year to do that. 18-second gap as things stand. And we hear that from Jeremy Gray,
As
too.
we just see Alpha Sigma Phi still over a lap down. They're getting pushed out of the pack. It looks like their race is falling away in front of them. I feel for them. They came in as really a dark horse winning pick and a podium contender pick, but with a bad crash like that on the entire other side of the track from their pit box, this race is about luck sometimes, and luck has not gone their way so far.
Well, Sigap, they're making a big, bold move here. They're, as the lead lap behind them, goes past the start-finish line, they are just under a half lap ahead.
As Beta Sigma Psi, Chi Alpha, and Delta Tau Delta are pushing this pack, again, I appreciate that Judah Thompson has put a lot of effort into this race, but this pack needs some more help. Judah Thompson can only do so much, and this pack is not going as fast as they need to as this gap goes back up to a half a lap.
It's going to be a case of how long can you allow them to have this before you say, all right, maybe they actually can complete this race, Hank?
If the pack can keep this gap consistent at a half a lap and not much more, you can leave them hanging for the entire race. That's what happened yesterday with Teeter, in that after about 30-40 laps, that gap stopped going up and stayed consistent, and you were just letting Sigap burn up their matches one by one. We still have 120 laps left in this race. Again, if Sigap wants to do this, they need to get the lap or get back in this pack. They are making a potential race-winning or race-losing move right now. But as I say that, they're getting over a half lap up in the field.
Yeah, Brian Gavette was pointing at him aggressively, saying chase down the guys in front of him, and those guys in front of him have been lapped, and they're trying to lap him again.
This pack is going to go to DEFCON 1 in a second and need to chase Sigap down as soon as possible, and you're about to see this pack split up and that rubber band break.
Yeah, it's Judah Thompson pulling in the very front of this chasing pack. And behind him is Chi Alpha, and there's an exchange prepping.
Drew Gavette is coming into William Pitts, their star rider. If anybody's going to close this gap down, it's going to be Will Pitts. Sigap is known for making these long moves. Back in 2016, they tried it. They try this almost every few years. I'm excited that they're trying it again. Will it work? Who knows? But it makes for an exciting race, that's for sure.
Do you remember the manner in which they won in 2015? Was it similar to this, or was it different?
Not at all. 2015, they stayed in the pack and did not do anything. They actually crashed early on, and nobody really mentioned them. They did not pull. They didn't push. They stayed in that pack, and then Nick Torrance came out from nowhere and won the sprint.
You saw a bit of a tough exchange for SAE down in the near side, and they're almost being lapped. They're being chased down by the team ahead of them by one spot in the quals. Wow. But SAE is pushing some tempo to try and get back into that lead lap, or chasing pack, I should say. It's still on the lead lap.
Sigap over a half lap on the field now.
Man.
SAE, though, is struggling to catch back up to that chase pack.
21-second lead. That's big. That's just past half a lap at the current pace that we are going at.
But again, with this wind, it's so hard to do this by themselves. We are up here in this press box, and the wind is gusting left and right. And I got to tell you, Sigap has no one to help them out right now.
Delta's prepping for an exchange in the back stretch. They're going to go for one more lap. Maybe they may even try and pull a bit of a burn here to try and get some time back.
And it looks like Judah Thompson is starting to push this pack. They may be making an exchange soon, or yeah, he is hurting right now. Hand is off the bike, tongue going out. He wants to come out as Delta goes right around them.
Yeah, that's John
Peterson.
Peterson.
And Shinzano with a bad exchange, and their race goes from bad to worse right now.
Man. And Delta in the back stretch going for a burn.
Phi Psi leading up for an exchange. Cutter's getting a bike in the pit box leading up for an exchange. Judah Thompson is hurting right now. Delta just exchanged, and they'll catch back up to the chase pack. but Torin Craig Mayor, their sprinter, they do not want to use him right now. They want to save him for the end of the race, but they cannot.
Last year, wasn't it 170, 185? They burned him a little bit, or was it 21 when we saw Craig Mayor get a little bit overutilized earlier in the race, trying to catch back up with things?
Absolutely. We see Five-Side make exchange too. This pack is blown to smithereens. We have so Sigep is still lone in the lead right now. They are almost a straightaway half behind the chase pack. In that chase pack, we have Phi Gamma Delta in the orange jerseys, Phi Delta Theta in the yellow jerseys, Bears, IUDM still up there, Cutters up there, Chi Alpha up there.
Look at Torin go on the outside. It's the second time on the bike. He had 9 laps the first time.
He knows what to do. He's riding everybody off of his wheels right now. Eli Konau and Fidel cannot follow him. He's yelling inside of those lapped riders.
Yeah.
He needs to catch Will Pitts right now.
This is the number 4 ITT placer against the number 5 ITT placer in a battle of wits. But it's Pitts preparing to come out of the race. Another exchange here, similar to what Teeter was doing yesterday. Frequent exchanges. It's Alex Hamilton coming onto the bike.
I don't know about these short sets, Jack. I don't know about them because every time you exchange, you lose about 7 to 8 seconds. They are still alone in that wind.
Look at Torin.
And you see Torin Craig Mayor and the pack trying to catch back up about a half lap down on Sig Ep. But again, Sig Ep is blowing their matches right now. You start the race with a matchbox with a limited number of matches, and each time you use your energy, you burn a match. You burn a match, and right now, Sig Ep is burning their matches like no other team in the field.
A Fiji exchange as well on the near side. Man.
Again, if the field can keep this lead to a half lap, Sig Ep will fall away and be gassed by the end of this race.
We're seeing Chi Alpha and Delta Tau Delta and Bears, IUDM all filling in right behind Torin Craig Mayor.
And SAE, we just saw their pit with a look of despair. They're still trying to catch up to that chase pack from the bad exchange. Fiji getting dropped off right now. AK Sai getting dropped off. Ghost getting dropped. Beta Sig is behind this chase pack. These are top teams that we looked at coming into this race getting dropped at lap 88.
You can see in the chase pack, Craig Mayor is pushing guys in front of him. He wants to rest. He's saying this chase pack, he's done leading that group. They're prepping for another exchange. Is Sig Ep. They're wanting a bike across. They're readying a guy for a bike-to-bike exchange.
I think this is, I don't know.
Coming back on the bike is
I
Max
don't know
Martin.
what to do for them right now. They're over a half lap up, but they're just burning matches left and right.
We'll see if they can hold out.
Now, 2 teams in that chase pack right now holding their own is IU Dance Marathon and Lucas Troutman. Big kudos to him. And then Bears qualifying 30th this year.
Yeah.
They made the podium, came in second in 2019, but qualifying 30th, great for them.
Only team with 3 riders registered. Interesting to see how they can handle things long term.
And Sig Ep just made an exchange. Still alone up front. They're trying so hard to make this work. They've been up front for about almost 20 laps now, Jack.
Yeah. So that's Sig Ep up front. They're currently edging things. Cutters, Chi Alpha, Delta Tau Delta, Phi Delta Theta. The teams that follow. Of that top 5, 3 of them qualified outside the top 10.
And SAE has just caught back onto that chase pack. They are back in the mix, so don't write them off just yet.
It's on the bike currently for Sig Ep is Max Martin. God, they are going for some short.
This is not sustainable,
changes.
Jack. This is not a sustainable strategy. If it works, kudos to them, but...
When do you bail out? Are they committed at this point?
Oh, they're committed right now. They're a straightaway and a half behind. This is their race. They knew what they were doing coming into this race. They want to make the move, but it looks like the pack is working together, but they're not gaining any ground on them.
Yeah.
And right now, Sig Ep's just about to pass some lapped riders. They're about to lap Phi Kappa Psi right now.
They're making another exchange. And Phi
No,
Kappa Psi is making an
Sig
exchange.
Ep is
they pushed him out.
keeping going another lap. Phi Kappa Psi is a lap down now,
Yeah.
Jack. They are a lap down and in some big trouble.
Carson and I are on the bike now. Arguably the best rider, number 14. Talked to him before the race. His sister Lauren won yesterday with Melanzana. He may hope that he can have a similar bit of fortune. Melanzana was behind a good distance behind Teeter. Eventually came back after they burned themselves out.
This is exactly what we talked about pre-race,
Man.
Jack. These 2 teams, in Cutters and Sig Ep, they knew they were the deepest teams coming into this race. They do not want to leave it to a bunch sprint. They say, we're deep, we're going to use our depth and go strong. As Sig Ep comes in for another exchange to Drew Gavette again. They are making fast exchanges left and right here.
Wow. Faisai got the lap back just to buy a bit. Back on that lead lap. But man, you can see the SIGEP mechanic. We're just switching bikes. It's been a consistent process. They're just
They
rotating the
knew
bikes out.
exactly what they were doing coming into this race, and their plan so far has played out perfectly. But again, my worry is it's only a half-lap gap. You have a strong pack with Cutters, Delts, Chi Alpha, Fight Out, IUDM, SAE, Bears, Fiji, all up there working together to chase one team in Sigma Phi Epsilon.
Hank, we need to take a deep breath or we're going to have a heart attack. We're not even halfway through the race. There's still an entire half of this race still to come. What a race has been so far. We're just past the hour mark, an hour and 3 minutes so far on the race. But it's been SIGEP who have been the dominant storyline. 2 crashes early on, and then on 53 we had a yellow flag, and we see in the back it's Faisai, and they're I don't know, is that an allowing drafting situation back there?
SIGEP. So Faisai is so desperate right now that they are pulling SIGEP along.
That's not a good idea.
I don't understand this at
And
all.
that's Carson Etnier.
Carson Etnier, an experienced rider, a strong racer. He is just pulling along Drew Gavette, and he finally pulls off and says, Drew, you come through, you're in the lead, we're a lap down. But Faisai is allowing SIGEP to use their wheel.
15-mile-an-hour winds picking up here in Bloomington.
And you can see this camera panning around the track. This pack is shattered. You have 33 riders at every place in the track as Delta Del Delta goes for an exchange with Cutters right on their wheel.
Yeah, we see that looks like it's Torin trying to keep him up there. And we're still seeing it's an entire lap that Faisai has allowed Drew Gavette to just kind of fall behind. Does Carson Etnier know?
I think he knows. Carson's soft pedaling right now. I think Drew knows and the team knows we aren't going to get this lap right now. We're just burning energy. So let's save ourselves. We can stay a half lap up right now and use this lap traffic to get a draft, refresh ourselves, and then go again in a little bit. As Cutters, it looks like they're about to make an exchange as well.
It looks like Gaskell might be coming back on the bike for them. They're getting their second bike ready. A lot of bike-to-bike exchanges. Is that a difference because of the bikes change back now to state, or is it just a general, more consistent thing in Little 5, I guess?
This is more consistent in Little 500, especially in the past decade or two. It's a safer exchange. You lose a couple seconds that way, but especially if you have 2 riders with differing heights and inseam lengths, you want to use that different bike because even if you're losing 2 seconds at first, you get that back in spades as their set goes on.
On the bike right now for Phi Delta Theta, Drew Rising. He's drafting in behind Torin Cray-Maywar.
Torin Cray-Maywar, you can see this look of pain on his face. He does not want to pull anymore. He wanted to exchange out a couple laps ago. There wasn't a bike ready, and Peyton Gaskell's sitting there waiting for him. But this pack is pushing up. Torin is hurting right now, Jack.
He's allowing Delta Tau Delta and Chi Alpha to get in front of him. That's a strung out chasing pack trying to get back on Phi Delta Theta. They've got a strung out pack of their own following them.
And we see SAE just got dropped from that pack. I think IUDM got dropped from that pack. This pack is whittling down as SIGEP still just plows along. They're about 2/3 of a lap up, keeping that gap consistent.
For Torin, this is his 12th lap now. When are you trying to get him off the bike for Cutters?
As soon as possible, honestly. I want him to have a gap on the pack when he exchanges. This is turning into a late race situation where you do not want to give any team any kind of gap, because if you leave that gap, you're not getting back on there. So right now, Torin realizes that gap isn't there. Let's just stay in the pack, suck on some wheels for a little bit, and live to fight another day once the pack slows down and I can get out and have Peyton get in the pack without much problem.
We'll take a breather, Hank. Down on trackside, Abby Heyman is with the winners from yesterday's race, Melanzana.
That's right. Thanks, Jack. I am here with the 2023 Little 500 Women's Champions. Guys, how does it feel? Put the excitement into words for me.
I mean, honestly, it feels like unreal. Like, what an amazing day we had yesterday.
How are you guys feeling over here?
Amazing. It's crazy to think that this is how we're ending our senior year. So it's such a good note to go on. Like, Lauren was a rookie, Abby raced last year, so got to 2P, and then I couldn't race last year, so it's just like an amazing note for all of us to end on.
Abby, how does it feel to win 2 years in a row? Like, what does that feel like?
I don't know. I just feel like I got really lucky, maybe in like a past life. I don't know what happened. Like, Little 5 is such an amazing community and experience. even if you never get a chance to win, because so many things have to align. And I just like things have to work out in your favor on that one day. And I am just like so grateful that I got to do it with like my best friends. So yeah.
That's awesome. Lauren, we are here watching the men's Little 500 race right now, and your twin brother, Carson, is on Phi Psi. How does it feel getting to watch him today after your victory yesterday?
I mean, it's awesome. He's like the main reason I'm out here. Like, I've watched him train so hard the last 3 years, and it's been so inspiring. So like, I'm so excited to watch him, and like, he's the best, and I hope that his hard work pays off.
All right, well, thank you guys so much. Congratulations again. I hope you get to celebrate this week and next week. Thanks again. Back up to you guys.
Some great stuff, Abby, from back-to-back champions Melanzana 2022 and 2023. Hope they are enjoying their festivities here today. We've seen a lot of stuff happen during that interview. SIGEP, twice now, Gavette has waived off exchanges that were offered to him. We still sit in the pit, it looks to be, is Will Pitts.
Drew is an incredibly smart rider. You can see he is still working with Phi Kappa Psi, and that wheel's there. Why ruin it? You have a good rider to work with, and now it looks like he's going to go in for that exchange.
Yeah.
But he was drafting off of Carson Etner, who is a strong rider, as we just mentioned. Why ruin that? Go out for another couple laps and allow
Pitts.
Will Pitts to come on the bike and catch back up to Carson.
It is Will Pitts on the bike. Now there's 10 teams on the lead lap, but they're all currently chasing that man in front. You can see him all by himself heading to turn 2. Turn 2's been perilous so far today. 2 big crashes.
But as the pack dwindles down as it has, the crashes become less common. And right now, this chase pack, Phi Delta Theta in those yellow jerseys,
Number 2,
is
Thomas
going
Rising.
for another exchange. You have Delta Tau Delta Cutters Chi Alpha behind, but that pack is shattered.
We've seen with Phi Delta Theta, they're doing a great job.
And it looks like now the gap has come below a half a lap now. For the first time in quite some time, it's just below a half a lap. But that chase pack is down to 3 teams and 3 teams only. And Delta Tau Delta, Cutters, Chi Alpha, and Jack. This bodes incredibly well for Sigma Phi Epsilon. This is what they wanted to do.
Not a lot of teams.
They don't want a big pack of 10 riders chasing them. They want singular teams and riders chasing them, because guess what? They're facing the same wind they are, but right now SIGEP's a half lap up.
Sigma Phi Epsilon has led for the last 45 laps. They've been eating wind for 45 laps. They have their best sprinter on the bike right now in Will Pitts.
There is nobody sprinting today, let me tell you that. Everybody's giving their all right now. We're only halfway through this race. This has been one of the fastest races in recent memory in Little 500. It has been hot from start to finish. Sigma Phi Epsilon causing this explosion about 30 or 35 laps ago, still out solo in the lead, being chased by a pack of about 3 riders, now 4 with Phi Delta Theta catching back up, but Fiji dropped off. ASIG is over a lap down. Human Wheels is down. Grey Goat crashed earlier.
Chi Phi, I'll give you a lap reset. Chi Phi is dead last in 33. Phi Sigma Kappa, Army, Tau Epsilon Phi, Wild Aces, Alpha Kappa Lambda, Human Wheels, Pi Kappa Alpha, Beta Theta Pi, and Delta Sigma Pi make up the bottom 10 teams. Let's give you the next 10. CSF Cycling, they were up front for a while, got caught in that crash. Shinzano, Lambda Chi Alpha, Novus, Evan Scholars, Grey Goat, Sigma Nu, Alpha Sigma Pi. Go ahead, Hank, sorry.
Just as you say that, Beta Sigma Psi, one of the dark horse contenders for this race, is being lapped by Sigma Phi Epsilon.
Wow, man, that's crazy. I'll give you the top half there. Let's get in the 15th place now is 3PH, Ford Cycling, Alpha Kappa Psi, Ghost Cycling, IUDM up 18 spots from their qual position. Beta Sigma Psi is in 10th. They have been lapped, though. Sigma Alpha Epsilon, Phi Kappa Psi, Bears, Phi Gamma Delta, Phi Delta Theta, Delta Tau Delta, Chi Alpha, Cutters, and Sigma Phi Epsilon, who have led for now 47 laps and counting. It's been a remarkable lead for them. They are, I mean, what are they pushing on? Just about half a lap lead as things stand.
This half lap lead has been consistent. Again, I'm a little bit worried, not too worried anymore, but I'm a little bit worried if this gap stays consistent, they are burning their matches for later in the race. But with only 3 real contenders, maybe 4 with Phi Delt in that chase pack, every team is using their matches right now. They're using their energy, and all those teams that wanted to sprint, they're off the back right now chasing.
If you're Cutters right now, let's talk about the chasing group right here. if you're one of these teams that you can see on your screen right now, what is your strategy to try and get back into this race?
Work with the teams around you. Right now, the teams around them on the lead lap are Cutters, Chi Alpha, Delta Tau Delta, and Phi Delta Theta. There are a couple lap teams in there that could help you, but again, there's a reason they're lapped. They're a little bit weaker. They're hurting already. They won't be able to help you push back to Sigma Phi Epsilon. That you need to work together, and that's what they're doing right now.
Sigma Phi Epsilon is prepping themselves for an exchange. Actually, they just blew through it right there. They're deciding to stay right there.
Now, if Sigma Phi Epsilon, there's a chase pack of about 10 to 12 riders, lapped riders ahead of them. If they can catch back onto that pack, they can have a little bit of a rest there and draft and have another little reset before they keep trying again and just keep that gap consistent.
Fiji's pulling a small group here.
3PH with a good exchange over in turn 4, as we see Chinzano with another exchange. Sig Ep, though, coming in with an exchange. Good tag. Here comes Alex Hamilton. Good jump on the bike. Hands in the drops, out of the saddle. Get back to the inside around Chinzano. That is how you do it in the Little 500.
You mentioned the exchange for 3PH. Max Resnick T-Winkle getting on the bike for them. Just past halfway through this race.
That gap now about a straightaway and 3/4, a little bit down, but that's after an exchange. Again, you lose about 7 to 9 seconds on each exchange, but as you see from Alex Hamilton, he is pushing it back in front. Great, so a little point here, great strategy by Chinzano. They're a couple laps down now, but they're just hanging on to that wheel of the leaders in Sigma Phi Epsilon. That's free speed they're getting over the entire field. They're not fighting for the win anymore. They're just fighting for places.
Yeah.
And when you can just draft off of the leader who is going the fastest in the race, that is free places.
Torrin Cray Maywar comes off the bike in place for Peyton Gaskill. That was a long set for Cray Maywar. And Gaskill's on the bike now. They're trying to make an attempt to come back in here. Gaskill is very quickly coming in. Yeah, a 2 mile an hour drop, as we heard mentioned by our PA announcer Jeremy Gray. 2 miles an hour less for Sigma Phi Epsilon.
But now that they've caught that chase pack, they can possibly.
They're riding through there.
They're just riding through. You're absolutely right. They don't want to draft off of anybody. They want to keep this lead going. Now the next riders up ahead for them that they can catch are Phi Kappa Psi and Fiji, who are working together about a straightaway ahead of Sigma Phi Epsilon. And if they can catch up, that's free speed as well to catch back ahead. But it looks like Cutters now and Peyton Gaskill in that green jersey, less than a half lap down. They are going solo up to Sigma Phi Epsilon. They have dropped Chi Alpha. They have dropped Delts. They have dropped Phi Delt. And Peyton Gaskill is putting a big effort in to catch Sigma Phi Epsilon about a straightaway and a half down now.
Gaskill has seen him down about 50, but behind 50 laps. They said, fine, I'll do it myself. Gaskill's got it where it's less than half a lap. It was like that for quite some time.
Cutters is making a huge move. Now a straightaway down. Peyton Gaskill, his head down. He is in the pain cave. Coming around that back stretch, the Sigma Phi Epsilon comes around turn 4. But it looks like Payne's going to exchange. I don't know how I feel about that. If you want to catch Sig Ep, you need to have longer sets because, again, each exchange lasts about 7 to 8 seconds of time lost.
Judah Thompson going to come onto the bike.
Here comes Judah again. This is their long lap eater. He is an endurance man. I hope I see him in there for at least 10 laps to make a big gap up.
He asserts the front position of this chase pack. He's ahead of Chi Alpha. He's ahead of Delta Tau Delta.
Now, Chi Alpha, good on them and Delta Tau Delta for catching back up to Cutters, and they can use Judah's draft if they can stay on his wheel to catch back up. This is the move to catch Sig up right now.
The entire of that 3-team chase group is now within half a lap. Making an exchange here, come on the bike is Max Martin for Alex Hamilton.
Jack, this is the time to catch him. Judah can see them around turn 1. If he can keep the speed up.
You see him ducking his head down. He glanced behind himself. He's chugging along. He's trying to catch up here.
Less than a straightaway behind, less than 100 meters behind now. Judah is not letting anybody else pull. He says, this is my race to catch Sig Ep, and I'm going to get the glory from it. Chi Alpha, Delts, they're just hanging on for dear life, it looks like.
Sean Grimm on for Chi Alpha. On the bike for Chi Alpha right now, left the wrestling team to join this group of guys. 7 teams on the lead lap as things stand. We've seen it drop off steadily, Hank. It used to be 22. Now it's down to 7.
Usually at lap 115 in the race, we see about maybe 15 teams to 20 teams on the lead lap. 7 teams at this point. It is a fast race. It is a windy race. I am thankful I'm up here in this box and not on the track because their legs are hurting.
The Sig Ep lead is down to 7 seconds right now as they round turn 3.
Judah Thompson putting in a huge effort right now to catch them. But look at Delta Tau Delta and Chi Alpha just sitting on his wheel. Delta Tau Delta, again, was one of our dark horse, maybe podium contenders for this race. If they can get back up without using too much energy and keeping Josh Herbst a little bit fresher than these other sprinters from Cutters and Sig Ep, they are a big contender to win the sprint later on in this race.
It's been a fascinating race so far.
But now Sigma Alpha Epsilon is in those pink jerseys is a lap behind Sig Ep, but Sig Ep
is
just using them as a draft. Again, we saw this with Phi-Sci earlier, Jack, and now with SAE. SAE is just pulling along.
We've seen Fiji and Phi-Sci have both been kind of helping each other out in the chase. They both just made exchanges at the exact same time, but Phi-Sci is tearing off. And we're seeing, I think the pit was yelling. They were yelling at SAE, make sure that you're not letting him pull at the front. We're seeing another exchange happen here. They may try and burn a little bit here, get an exchange going here. This is probably the moment when Delta Tau Delta, Cutters, and Chi Alpha can try and really catch up. They're just under they're about a straightaway behind them right now.
Absolutely. As we see Fiji come around turn 4, they're about a straightaway in front of Sig Ep, about to get lapped. Phi-Sci has just gone ahead like a rocket. They are trying to catch up that chase pack about a half lap down, and there's a rider in that Sig Ep pit waiting for an exchange, but he keeps going. No exchange yet. This gap is coming down slowly but surely. Jack, I think we're going to have a 4-team sprint here soon in this race.
We'll get down to Evan then right now. Evan, what have you got for us?
Thanks, Jack. A special treat in the stands with 2 of the rowdiest crowds here. I got Owen Van Hees of the Phi-Sci president and Eli Anderson of Fiji. And guys, I want to start with you, Owen. What have such a big support here?
I mean, the bikers put in so much work throughout the year. It's incredible to have the alumni and all their brotherhood for this event. It means the world.
Eli, I'll ask you the same question. What does it mean to have this support here?
I can't reiterate enough. Everybody here, all the bikers putting in hundreds of hours of work, all the graduate alumni putting in lots of money, helping everything we can. These guys showing up, those guys showing up, it's a blast.
And you guys, you might not be in that first pack, but you're right in the thick of it. What does it mean? How much more do you guys can do to support your teams?
I mean, as long as we get the energy up in here, we know the bikers will take care of their part. Last year was a little bit disappointing, so we're hoping to have a different outcome this year.
I didn't hear the question.
It's all good. How much more can you guys do to support your guys?
Cheer as loud as we possibly can. As much as we possibly can. They're right behind us, they're right in front of us. That's all we can do.
Any good plans for after the race?
I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens after the race. It could be, some celebratory or, another way around. We'll find out.
And for you, after the race?
Enjoy the Little 500 weekend. It's the greatest college week in sport. It's the greatest college week in America. You cannot leave that out. That's what it is.
Absolutely not. And you can hear them going up behind me. It is loud. Jack, back up to you. I'm going to join the cheers, though, so I'll see you in a little bit.
Evan, enjoy the atmosphere down low. It's a great weekend. We've seen Sig Ep have maintained their lead. They made it tough for those 2 teams, those 2 rowdy sets of supporters, to try and keep their motivation up.
And we have seen with Drew Gavette back on the bike for Sig Ep, Judah Thompson is still pulling for Cutters about a straightaway and a half back, but that gap is starting to increase again. Judah is doing the brunt of this pulling with Delts right behind them. Chi Alpha exchanging is just catching back up, but Judah's doing the majority of this pulling here, and with fresh riders in for Sig Ep, this gap is increasing again.
This is crazy. A final exchange in the back stretch that they're making, announced by Jeremy Gray. Oh man, yeah, Fidel exchange in the back stretch.
Oh, and that might be Fidel's race right there. They are now about a straightaway half behind the chase pack. They'll have to work solo to catch back up. And again, this bodes even better for Sig Ep now that it is just Cutters, Chi Alpha, Delta Del Delta in that chase pack on the lead lap.
On the bike is Jonathan Frazier for Chi Alpha. Peterson on. for Delta Tau Delta.
Jonathan Frazier is an underrated rider in the Little 500 community. Did not complete individual time trials because he got in a heavy bike crash that Monday before ITTs. But his coach says that he's a top 10 rider in the field, and he's showing it right now, pulling that chase pack back. As we see Phi trying to get back. They're almost a lap down. AK Sai is over a lap down. IUDM is right there with Phi. This pack is hurting.
Will Pitts just getting on the bike now for SIGEP. Not the cleanest of exchanges. Them and SAE are making an exchange at the exact same time, but he's back on, and he's pulling for SAE. And Judah Thompson still on the bike, pulling that group in the chasing area.
In Phi Delta Theta, I might have spoken too soon. We can see them about 10 meters behind that chase pack. He is making a huge effort as he goes around turn 2. The yellow jerseys in the crowd cheering him on, catching back up to that chase pack. They are back in this race.
They were not talked about by us entering this. They're wearing the yellow jerseys. They lost 3 of their 4 guys last year. Eli Konow, the only one coming back.
I'm surprised, Jack, honestly. I am happily surprised by them. We know that they have great coaches in Jeff Beaumont and Joe Hanauer, but losing 2 of the top 10 riders, it's hard to win back-to-back, but they're trying to stick on as Delta Tau Delta goes in for an exchange. Now, Delt, look for them. Again, we have seen them draft cutters for the past 20 or 30 laps now. They are a team that could make their own break for it and catch up to SIGEP on their own.
Delta Tau Delta making an exchange. Kotlowski comes off the bike for them. They're going to try and get back into that group. Peterson coming onto the bike for Delta Tau Delta.
And here comes in cutters for an exchange. No, he did not want to go in. The gap wasn't there. And now Judah Thompson has to go for another lap around this track. Every rider is hurting on this track today. Strategy has gone out the window. SIGEP has blown this race apart from lap 65 or 70.
Fight out exchange on the far side again. They've making a quick one after trying to catch up after a poor one there. This one looks to be a bit better. Yeah, quick onto the bike there.
But with all these big movements, these burns trying to get back up to the pack, they are reusing energy, and I don't know if they can hang with this chase pack very much longer.
Yeah, we see SAE and SIGEP in this long, strung-out group of teams trying to keep up with SIGEP, but SIGEP is a lap ahead of all the teams behind him.
At least. They have now lapped Phi Kappa Psi. They have lapped Fiji. They have lapped AK Psi, IUDM.
That's SAE right behind them.
They have lapped all of those teams, and those teams are still in the top 10. Sigma Alpha Epsilon is 6th place in this race, and they are a lap behind Sigma Phi Epsilon.
That's insane. That is an incredible performance from Sigma Phi Epsilon so
and now
far.
SAE, they know that they're out of this race. They're not fighting with SIGEP anymore. They're fighting with the other teams in that pack, so they have to keep on pulling. SIGEP is getting free speed while this chase pack is trying to pull themselves back together, but they don't have anybody to work with.
Judah Thompson still on the bike, as well as John Peterson. And Jonathan Frazier still on the bike for Chi Alpha.
This gap is not decreasing at all, and now that SIGEP has really a better pack to work with, surprisingly.
Yeah, and we've seen SAE allow him to go through and not pull as much here. SAE has been surprisingly cooperative from their fellow row 1 participant in allowing them to draft behind them, even though they're a lap behind.
Again, this may just be inexperience here, but Luke Noss is a strong rider. I think he just wants to use his speed and use his strength that he trained for all year. But again, they're not fighting SIGEP anymore. They're fighting the red jerseys in Phi Kappa Psi, the orange jersey in Fiji, the green and red jersey in IUDM. As here we see Delta Tau Delta with a relatively fresh rider on the bike. They're making a solo move now. There is a whiteboard in their pit box. No rider there. They're saying go, go, go. They are bridging this gap. They're trying to break away from the green jersey and cutters and the white blue jersey in Chi Alpha.
Wow. We're seeing Phi Psi come out for an exchange. They're still a lap behind, obviously.
Delta Tau Delta, they are trying to do this on their own, just as we predicted a few seconds ago. They have been drafting off of Judah Thompson and cutters for so long. But just as I say that, Judah Thompson with an incredible effort. He has been a great rider today, a freshman in his first Little 500 from Bloomington, Indiana. Great job bridging back up, and that pack now slows back down.
The Delt sign says shark. What does that mean? Tell me what that means, Hank.
I think it means eat them up and go fast, get SIGEP.
That's actually pretty good. I was wondering how you'd be able to interpret that. That is Delta Tau Delta. They're slowing up a little bit after Thompson got onto his wheel, but we saw the coaches and the pit of cutters point at the wheel of Delta Tau Delta saying, get on that for Thompson, and it's Cray Maywar ready to get back on the bike. Torin is ready for an exchange. And
they're doing a single bike exchange here. Let's see how it goes. Torin running, looking back, getting the bike a little slow but pretty safe. Jumps on, and he'll be able to catch back up to Delta Tau Delta just fine. But Chi Alpha now, it looks like they're going for an exchange. They're in second place solo in those white and blue jerseys. Again, another dark horse pick is they're about to exchange on that backstretch, qualifying 15th or 14th in this race.
It's also important to note, SIGAP did get into a small crash earlier on in this race, and they still have decided to go for this incredibly aggressive strategy. They're prepping an exchange in this near side. SAE makes an exchange as well, trying to get themselves back in the race.
They crashed early on and had to use a lot of matches early and are still going for it. Kudos to them for blowing up this race and making it exciting.
Chi Alpha with Ryan Lowe is right back on the wheel of Cray Maywar, trying to keep things up.
Let's talk about Ryan Lowe for a second. He is an interesting case. He rode for Black Key Bulls his entire career and decided to change teams. He had not raced for them. He had not qualified for them. And he said, look, I want a better opportunity at Chi Alpha. And now they're in third place in this race, fourth place in this race, and Black Key Bulls isn't even here today.
Yeah, it's crazy how things can work out like that. Said he felt it in his heart. He wanted to join Chi Alpha. But we see it's Jet Black. It's Delta Tau Delta. They're going with a throwback right there. Following behind them is AK Psy, but they are over a lap behind. They're not in the lead lap. And then Cray Maywar is allowing Lowe to go up front, saying he wants to draft on him. Still about half a lap ahead. Wow, now still out a straightaway ahead.
But Delta Tau Delta working by themselves, Chi Alpha working by themselves, and Delta Tau Delta is making an exchange right now. I don't really understand this at all, as the chase pack's about to pass them back up again. Their pit is into it. They're clapping them on, but everybody using so much energy as Sigma Phi Epsilon still working with these lapped riders ahead of them to get a draft.
Wow.
How do you explain that, Jack, when you have Phi Kappa Psi, that red jersey with Carson Nettenmeyer helping Sigma Phi Epsilon in the lead to keep that lead going?
Brady Jarozinski is on the bike now for Delta Tau Delta.
Now, do you think possibly that there might be a little bit of friendliness in these fraternity teams in this lead pack here? You have Phi Kappa Psi, Sigma Alpha Epsilon, Phi Gamma Delta, and Beta Sigma Psi all up there. Do you think there's a little bit of a
Beta Theta Pi in the back end as well?
A bit of a fraternity there of Greek teams wanting to keep that title in Greek Row instead of having cutters and
Delta Tau Delta. They may say, hey, let me get on that action up front with the Greek life.
And Chi Alpha trying to get the independents the win.
Wow, we were seeing Cray Maywar make a huge jump. You see him taking the front of that pack right there.
He is making a big move right now. Delts and Chi Alpha trying to bridge, not doing well. There's no rider in the pit for cutters right now. They're about a straightaway down.
Let me make the argument for why you are playing Cray Maywar right here is that you're not going to get into a sprint. It's an endurance battle. And even if you get into a sprint with SIGAP, they've been doing this since lap 50. And are they going to have a guy capable of beating you in a sprint, even if Cray Maywar burns a lot of matches here? I think you need to just keep it close now because I think, honestly...
I think this comes back together, Jack. I think this eventually comes back together. SIGAP is just dangling about a straightaway and a half ahead of the pack right now. Again, they have teams to work with.
Turn 2 crash. Trying to ID what happened over there. It was Beta Theta Pi who got knocked down there. They're trying to get back on the bike, trying to get themselves back into things. Small crash. Again, turn 2, though, the common cause of problems in this race so far.
Those gusts of wind coming from turn 2 make you just rub wheels sometimes when you don't want to, if you're overlapping in a bad place. But Torin Cray Maywar, he is making a big effort right now, a solo big effort. We see Judah Thompson make big solo efforts. Peyton Gaskell makes big solo efforts. And now Torin Cray Maywar, their main sprinter, make a big solo effort, try to catch them. He's not doing the best job, though. They're still a straightaway down. In my heart of hearts, I still think this comes back together and we have a 2 to 3 team sprint at the end as Sigma Phi Epsilon makes an exchange. And there's Alex Hamilton coming onto the bike there. This race might come back together, but it will be hard for them to bring it back at this point.
It's Sigap on the far side there.
Alex Hamilton back on the bike trying to catch back up to that lapped pack to help them out.
You can't see graphics on the screen right now. We are on lap 139 as things stand. Currently in first place is Sigma Phi Epsilon and Cutters in second place. Delta Tau Delta in third. Chi Alpha in fourth. We'll give you a full field reset in just a moment, but we'll keep you on lap by lap on as things stand. Passing now onto lap 140 is Sigap. Cutters in a bit of just about a straightaway behind. And now look at Chi Alpha. Ryan Lowe making a huge burst of energy using that wind behind his back to get onto the wheel of Prairie May War. They're prepping for an exchange, as is Delta Tau Delta. That's a pair of exchanges for your teams in that backstretch far left side.
And that is crucial to do for Chi Alpha and Delta Tau Delta to be
Watch out for this exchange. Let's see how it goes.
At the same time,
is it going to be clean?
It's clean. Running, jumping on, and back up. Now the key thing about this is they both have each other to work with as they catch back up to Cutters in that pack. Now again, to just give a slight recap of what the teams we're watching are. Sigma Phi Epsilon made an early move around lap 70. They are solo in the lead in those black jerseys, called second. Cutters, they are in second place right now in those green jerseys, signifying that they got the pole position in qualifications. And then right behind them, Delta Tau Delta in those red and white striped jerseys, and Chi Alpha in the white and blue jerseys trying to catch back up to Cutters, still about a straightaway behind Sigma Phi Epsilon. But this pack is in shambles. There are only 5 teams on the lead lap right now, with Phi Delta Theta almost getting lapped by, about a straightaway from getting lapped by Sigap.
Yeah, and Sigap has got 4 teams in front of them, able to just draft behind. Getting a lot of energy here. It's an exchange as well. Coming onto the bike now is Jacob Kuhn on for Prairie May War.
And we haven't seen Jacob Kuhn on the bike in a while because Cutters has had to use their big firepower. Let's see what Jacob can do, because it's been, I want to say, about 70 or 80 laps since we've seen him, if I'm not mistaken.
Let's get some insight into the Sigap strategy. Evan Kamika, what you got for us?
Well, Jack, right now I can't really tell you much about their strategy besides the fact that they are winning. But I can tell you an interesting note about Sigap is that there is 3 rookies on this team, despite a lot of newcomers. Like we said earlier, the family community, they are a close-knit team. They've done a ton of things together, like watching March Madness, playing Xbox. They like to get really competitive, and you can see right now that competitiveness is really helping. And last but not least, they are a team that absolutely loves Chick-fil-A, but occasionally they'll go get Chubby's for a group dinner. Now there's a lot of laps to go, and we've seen, like yesterday, the race could flip in a matter of seconds. We'll see what happens. Jack, back up to you.
Well, thank you, Evan. We're seeing Sigap kind of in the back of this group here.
But we see Delta Tau Delta trying to make a big move with those 2 chase teams,
this
less
is
than a
close
straightaway
it's been.
behind. This is exactly as close as it has been since they first made this move around lap 70. Chi Alpha trying to pull forward, but there's a little miscommunication in that pack. Well, Sigap is just allowed to sit in with those lapped riders and draft.
This is Kuhn's first lap since lap 69, so he's had a good chunk of time to be able to get off the bike, and he's the 3rd guy in that little chase group right there.
So this is key for Cutters. Kuhn is not there to make moves. He is there to get their other riders freshened up. They want Torin fresh. They want Peyton fresh. They want Judah fresh, because they've all made big efforts to just stay in this race. Jacob Kuhn is there to just follow Delta Tau Delta and help make some pulls to come back up to this lead in Sigma Phi Epsilon, which is down to about 3/4 of a straightaway.
Josh Herbst on the bike for Delta Tau Delta right now, pulling themselves into the front of that little 3-team group. 4 teams there, but 3 teams on the lead lap. They can see Sigap as close as it's been in quite some time.
They are drafting off of Phi Kappa Psi in that red jersey, 3PH in that blue and orange jersey. But again, those teams are a lap plus down, and Fiji right behind them, they're also a lap plus down. Sigap is getting free speed right
They're
here.
using 3PH and Phi Psi in front of them as speed.
But it looks like Josh Herbst is making an incredible effort to catch back up.
6.6 second gap right now. It was as much as 21 seconds at one point. It's now been cut into a 1/3.
This gap is coming down as we speak. Sigap is just kind of soft pedaling, drafting. They are playing for a sprint right now.
You think so?
They know that these 3 teams behind them are having to catch back up and use their energy. I think we have 55 laps to go. I think this comes back together.
Sigap a bit boxed in right here. It's getting spread out a bit, and there's going to make an exchange here.
This is going to come back together with this exchange. I don't know about this. With Will Pitts coming on the bike, you have Josh Herbst catching back up. Let's see if he can make that move before Will gets his speed back.
Oh, he's got coming on the
Here
inside
comes
is Kuhn.
Jacob Kuhn, again, fresh as a daisy since lap 69. They are about 2 or 3 seconds behind.
Man, and there it is. We've got a quarter of a straightaway gap between them. And right behind Cutters is Delta Tau Delta. Chi Alpha, a bit of a chunk behind them as well.
Will Pitts getting caught up in lap traffic. Jacob Kuhn making the move back to Sigma Phi Epsilon. Let's see what goes on here.
Yeah, in front of him is Beta Theta Pi, and the coaches are saying slow down. Well, it's been almost 100 laps
Here
of SIGEP in front.
we go, Jack. We have Delta Tau Delta and Cutters just about to bridge up to Sig Ep.
Wow.
We see them come together in our picture. 3 teams together. Chi Alpha about 30 or 40 meters behind.
There's Kuhn, and there's the moment. Cutters passes SIGEP. First time we've got a different leader in over 100 laps.
We have got a bike race.
Wow.
Jacob Kuhn, what a move by him, coming on to help freshen up Cutters, Peyton, Torn, and Judah to catch back up. And guess what? Now that they're together, this pack is going to sit up, slow down, and get ready for some fireworks for the next 52 laps.
Man, so who's on the bike right now for SIGEP? Is it Will Pitts on the bike?
Will Pitts is on the bike for SIGEP. We have Jacob
Is
Kuhn.
he their ideal sprinter then?
He is their ideal
so
sprinter,
when do you get him off the bike?
I would say, if possible, again, this race has gone to shambles so early. There is no ideal sprinter at this point. No strategy
Delta now
going
is
on.
taking first place, by the way.
But if you're looking for the perfect strategy for SIGEP, you want Will Pitts to not ride one lap after 175. I would say he does this set, maybe one more set, and then rest him for the end because, excuse me, this is Max Martin on the bike for SIGEP right now. So Will Pitts is sitting right now, but I would still have him sit up until about 175, get him some rest before the sprint because this is going to end in a reduced bunch sprint, I bet.
The Delta Tau Delta fan base, you see him. I believe that's them on camera right now as their guys are about to go by them. There's Herbst on the bike who made an absolutely humongous effort to come back on that one.
So to recap on who the sprinters are for each of the teams, Cutters' main sprinter is Torrin Cray Maywar. You want him sprinting for Cutters. Delta Tau Delta in those red and white striped jerseys, you want Josh Herbst, who's on the bike right now. So if I'm Delts, I want to get him off soon, maybe give him one more set, and then rest him for the end. But again, Jack, everybody has used energy. Nobody knows how well they are going to be able to sprint on lap 200 after all of these efforts.
They mentioned beforehand they viewed themselves as one of the big 3 alongside SIGEP and Cutters. Well, they are right alongside them in a 3-team lead. Chi Alpha's fallen off a little bit in terms of the chase pack. But actually, no, excuse me, they are right behind it now.
So Chi Alpha exchanged a few laps ago, and that was a great
They're right there.
effort
44 laps.
from Sean Grimm to catch back up to that pack. So we have a 4-team lead pack there with 50 laps to go.
Cray Maywar has done 44 laps for Cutters so far today.
That is more than they expected him to do, I bet. Coming
Yeah.
into this race, you want Cutters' traditional sprinter strategy is leave the sprinter as fresh as a daisy. Look back to 2018 and 19 when Noble Guyon had only done 1 or 2 sets, no more than 25 laps in the entire race before he comes on and sprints. Torrin riding 44 laps, that was not in the playbook today for them.
We see Phi Kappa Psi is kind of pulling this group, but they are a lap behind, and you see Herbst kind of waving SIGEP in front of him, saying, he's literally waving him. He's saying, go take the spot in front of me.
And SIGEP says, no, thank you. I used my energy. I made this race happen. It's your turn to do something.
You see Herbst just pointing him repeatedly, trying to get him to take that space. On the outside, Beta Theta Pi is going to make an exchange.
But again, with only 4 teams on the lead lap right now, they don't have to worry about anybody else catching up.
Nope.
It is a 4-team race with 47 laps to go.
Man. In that 5th spot is Phi Kappa Psi, and Phi Psi is right in front of them.
So as this race slows down a little bit, one thing to look for once this race heats back up is body language. As a rider on the bike, you want to pay attention to how the rider looks on a bike. Are their elbows bent? Is there much body movement? If their arms are straight as an arrow and they're swaying left and right, they are tired. You want to take advantage of that. If their head is coming down and swaying.
Look at Cutters. They're being marked by Sig Epp.
Here we go. There is no rider in the pit for Cutters right now.
Or Sig Epp.
Jacob Kuhn is just making a move, but Max Martin and Sig Epp is right on their tail.
Josh Herbst is also following in behind. Kai Alpha as well is right behind them as well. Cutters is preparing for an exchange potentially. Are they going to break out?
They shouldn't.
Wow, right on the inside there was IUDM. That
Lucas
was a dangerous
Troutman
one.
with an interesting move. They're on the curb. That could have been very dangerous, especially as a lapped rider in the pack with those leaders.
Yeah, a lot of lapped riders in this pack. It's kind of slowed down a little bit. Last lap, 38 seconds. Troutman is going for a bit of a push here, as is Phi Kappa Psi. He's drafting off of him.
But again, we do not need to worry about Phi Kappa Psi in that red jersey. They are a lap behind. One thing to look out for actually is if these lap teams are able to unlap themselves.
Yes, this is their. I think Phi Psi is seeing the teams around him saying, "This is 4 teams. Sig Epp's right behind me.
Let's
I'm
see
pushing."
what Phi Psi
hey,
can do
Phi
over the next
Psi
couple
isn't
laps.
going for an exchange. They're going for just a massive push. They've done this now 3 times. They've gone for a big burn like this, and they're trying to get it on the next lap around.
And I think that's still Carson Etnier on the bike. Let's see if he does another lap or two to get an advantage.
Looks like they're going to make an exchange right here.
So this pack only cares about Cutters, Sig Epp, Delta Tau Delta, Chi Alpha. Those are the 4 teams that they care about. Phi Psi, they are not marking them, and you see they already have a straightaway lead here. This is their time to get back into it with 45 laps left because those leaders are not going to chase them that hard.
So here is, we've seen
Phi Psi doing another lap up in front.
Yeah.
They are making their move right now to try to unlap themselves. Their pit box is calm as a cucumber. They know what's going on.
They're repeatedly putting them out there for the exchange right as the teams are coming by and putting them back away. They're back on the lead lap now. Phi Delta, not Phi Delta. I was saying them because they're making an exchange here in the back stretch. But Phi Kappa Psi, keep an eye out on them as we go forward here. Also Fiji, they're at the front of this group.
And here comes Beta Sig, who's also a lap down. Again, so many lapped teams in this pack. If you want to unlap yourselves, now is the time with still 40 laps left. Once we get to 175 or 180, the fireworks will go off again, and whatever opportunity you had is done.
Albert Schaefer on the bike now for Phi Psi, who just made an exchange.
Phi Psi making a move. Beta Sigma Psi is also about 50 to 60 meters in front of this pack right now.
Lucas Troutman, they're a lap behind. He could try and make something happen here.
IUDM might be the team of the day with Lucas Troutman riding an incredible amount of laps so far.
They may try and make either an exchange or some move here. They're not prepping an exchange with Troutman. Following it behind is Grey Goat. Grey Goat was with a big injury, with a big crash earlier. Wow. See up front, Troutman in the front of that group ahead of them. Ghost Cycling, AK Size making an exchange.
So I believe IUDM is actually 2 laps down right now, trying to just get back to 1 lap
They
down.
are indeed. They are indeed. They are 2 laps behind. That's great.
But the 2 teams to look for right now making a move are Beta Sigma Psi. You can see them going around turn 1 right now in those black and pink jerseys. And then Phi Kappa Psi, they are almost a half a lap down from catching up to that lead pack, and that lead pack is 4 wide. They are not doing much right now.
They have Albert Schaefer on the bike.
Red jerseys of Phi Kappa Psi, watch out for them. Again, a storied past, a tragic recent history. Let's see if they can rewrite history this year and get back into it.
I'm going to make a bit of a guess here. I think they're putting these guys out to make the other teams think they're about to make an exchange, but Schaefer got on the bike about 2 laps ago. I can't imagine he's coming off the bike.
If you're being technical about that, that is illegal. You were only allowed to have the bike in the pit for, I believe, max to 2 laps. But it's race day. Things happen. I'm not an official. I'm just an observer.
That was your race director popping back out saying, hang on a minute. Fiji is alongside Phi Psi.
So here comes Phi Kappa Psi for an exchange.
They are making exchanges.
Chi Alpha, great burn out in front of the lead pack to put a fresh rider on. Again, this lead pack is not going fast at all. And these lap teams are starting to realize we can make our mark right now. This is the time to do it.
Let's head down now to pit 11. Evan is with Delta Tau Delta.
Thanks, Jack. I'm here in the pits of Delta Tau Delta with student coach Jack Lloyd. Jack, so far second place right now. How has your strategy been effective to this point?
You know, we came in with a plan. SIGEP blew it up early. We had to burn some matches to get back in the pack, but our guys are fresh. We're feeling strong. We're looking forward to the end.
Well, Jack, good luck the rest of the way.
Thank you.
Jack, back to you.
Nice one there from Evan, just on some quick insight into what Delta Tau Delta is doing. They mentioned it. Strategy got blown up by SIGEP. Good to see the teams down low are also in the same mindset as us. Man, Phi Psi, they are less than a straightaway away.
Phi Kappa Psi is about to unlap themselves, and we're about to have a 5-team race in a second, Jack.
Beta Sig is the next team to watch
Right
out
now,
for.
Cutters does not want to pull. Delta Tau Delta does not want to pull. Okay, so Cutters is making an exchange here. We've seen that a couple of times today. I thought early on they just weren't making good burns. This is the strategy, and I've thought about this before. They are specifically not burning into the exchange to not stretch out the pack. They are doing a little surprise exchange when the pack is slow and soft to give the rider coming back on an easy time to get back in that pack.
Gaskell getting on the bike. Let's head down now to Abby Heyman. She's with Chi Alpha for some more strategy talk.
You guys are currently in second. Talk to me about what type of strategy you're going to use going into these last 40 laps of the race.
I mean, the race has just been crazy so far. We've had a half-lap deficit to SIGEP, and it took us about 50 laps to work with Delts and Cutters to bring this thing back. So I think right now we're just going to be aware of some counterattacks and try to sit in, and hopefully it comes down to a sprint finish. We'd really like those chances for us, but yeah, it's a very slow race right now just because of how much work everyone's had to do. So we're just going to try to sit in real quick and just be very conservative.
Awesome. Good luck. Thank you so much. Back to you.
Thank you, Abby. They favored themselves in a sprint finish. They want to get this down there. SIGEP is making a big burnout on the front. Are they going to be chased by Cutters? It looks like they are going to be.
Ooh, and a little slide out on turn 4, but it still hangs on as the little rubber wheels, and there's a crash.
Fiji's down.
Fiji goes
Jet
down.
Black is
Chi Alpha
down.
goes down. Delta go down. CSF goes down. SIGEP is in the lead. Cutters in the lead alone. Cutters is in the lead alone. The other two contenders are down. Chi Alpha needs a bike. They're running it to him.
Wow, Cutters has got a half straightaway edge on things. Chi Alpha's back on their bike. Jet Black, the man going down was Albert Schaefer. Excuse me, no, it was Josh Herbst who got knocked down in that crash. He's trying to catch back up. They're going to try to exchange in the back stretch there.
There is a green flag. There is not a yellow flag yet. Green flag. There is still racing.
Yeah, green flag. So they're making an exchange as well, as is
So
Cutters.
Cutters is in the lead.
Gaskell get on the bike.
Judah Thompson on the bike. And
Gaskell
here
off.
comes Sigma Phi Epsilon to bridge the gap. It is a 2-team race again. And Phi Kappa Psi is now in third place, Jack, only about a straightaway and a half behind. Cutters is not stopping. Where are Chi Alpha and Delta Tau Delta? They're a half lap down now.
It was Fiji that was involved in the crash. Chi Alpha's trying to catch back up.
There was a rub of wheels and elbows with Cutters and Fiji. When Cutters tried to exchange, Fiji went down and Chi Alpha and Delta got caught up in it. And now it is a 2-team race with SIGEP and Cutters, the two teams we talked about before this race. They are together a half lap ahead. Jack, these are the fireworks we talked about.
Wow. That was a remarkable sequence there.
Phi Psi still working with SAE. SAE a lap down, but Phi Psi only about a straightaway and a half down right now.
SAE in 9th, Phi Psi in 3rd. So to update you, Cutters 1, SIGEP 2, Phi Psi 3, Delta Tau Delta 4, Fiji 5, Chi Alpha 6. But on that lead lap is 6 teams, it appears. Chaos, absolute chaos at
And
lap
Delta Tau
165.
Delta has just spun way in front of Chi Alpha, now a straightaway in front of Chi Alpha. Chi Alpha is falling apart after that crash. They had to run a bike all the way from their turn 3 pit to the turn 4 location of the crash. We see so Cutters and Sigma Phi Epsilon are coming around turn 2 right now. Phi Kappa Psi just making an exchange in turn 1, and Delta Tau Delta
Is gonna pass
bridging
them.
the gap with Phi Psi. So Phi Psi and Delta will work together to bridge that gap, and now Chi Alpha is still about a straightaway behind them.
Josh Herbst is still the man on the bicycle. He was in the crash. Excuse me, he came off the bicycle. It's Kotlowski on the bike. Thank you. Josh Herbst was the guy who crashed. Kotlowski back on the bike. Herbst was involved in a crash before last year's race, broke his collarbone. If he was involved in a crash like that last year, racing career probably would have been done. He's off there, though. 5-second penalty has been assessed to Fiji.
So Phi Gamma Delta when that happened, I need to see a replay of it, but Phi Gamma Delta, I guess, impeded Cutters and therefore got an impeding penalty, and now they have to spend 5 seconds in the pit box. Essentially, what that is when you are riding on the track, you have to ride parallel to the gutter. Okay, here's a replay of the crash. Let's see what happened. Here comes Cutters and Fiji, and I guess you can't really see what happened.
Fiji, he kind of gets on the back of his wheel, bumps into it.
I don't know if that's the right decision, Jack, honestly. It looked like Cutters was coming out into the middle of the pack, and Fiji was just following his line, was just a little bit slower. I need to see a better replay of that, but that is a controversial decision to say the least here.
It knocks Fiji more or less out of the race because they have to take a 5-second penalty at some point.
And their team is furious. You can see John Gudeman on that trainer bike there in the pit, throwing his hands up, yelling. They do not like that decision one bit, and if I were on that team, I would not like that decision either.
It was Gaskell on the bike, an experienced guy for Cutters, and the crash happened there. Phi-Sci on the lead lap, as mentioned. Kotlowski's making a big push, trying to get themselves back up, but it's SIGEP and Cutters. If you're SIGEP and Cutters, are you almost working together to keep these contenders away from you?
Absolutely, and that's what they're doing right now. Right now, they are not going full out. They're going maybe a tempo ride, slightly above tempo or threshold, but they're working together to keep Delta Tau Delta and Chi Alpha out of this race. And Chi Alpha still working solo, trying to just catch up to Delts, but Phi-Sci, let's not forget about them, bridging the lap almost, and now in 4th place working with Delts, and they have a good pack to work with, about a straightaway and a half down from Cutters and SIGEP.
An exchange made now by Fiji.
That penalty will be one to look back on and really review. That is one of the most controversial decisions I've seen in a long time in the Little 500.
In that instance, would you almost say no penalty?
If you're going to call a penalty, I don't want to say it, but I might call it on Cutters because it looked like they were not riding parallel to the gutter. It looked like they were riding away from the gutter there. And Fiji was just following their line, but I would call it as a racing incident. It's racing, it happens, you rub wheels.
Well, let's give you who's on the bike right now. It's Judah Thompson for Cutters, and I believe it's Drew Gavette for SIGEP. Wow. All right, let's give you a full race reset at the moment. It's been an absolutely crazy race, and I'm not sure we'll have time in the next 30 laps to give you something there. In 33rd, it's Chi-Phi, Army, Phi Sigma Kappa, Wild Aces, Alpha Kappa Lambda, Tau Epsilon Phi, Human Wheels, Beta Theta Pi, Pi Kappa Alpha, Delta Sigma Pi, CSF Cycling, Lambda Chi Alpha, Evan Scholars, Novus, Chinzano, Sigma Nu, Alpha Kappa Psi, Alpha Sigma Phi, Forest, Grey Goat, 3PH, Bears and Go Cycling, IUDM, Sigma Alpha Epsilon, Phi Delta Theta, and these teams not on the lead lap yet. Phi Delta Theta and Phi Gamma Delta in 7th, Beta Sigma Psi in 6th, Chi Alpha in 5th, Delta Tau Delta, Phi Kappa Psi, Cutters, Sigma Phi Epsilon.
And it looks like Chi Alpha, unless I'm mistaken, has caught up to that pack with Delta Tau Delta and Phi-Sci. So there are 3 lead lap teams now working together to catch the 2 leaders in Cutters and SIGEP, and it's down to about a straightaway now. It might be about a 7 or 8 second gap. This race is not just between 2 teams, and you know, once it comes down to the final 10 laps, there will be games played by Sigma Phi Epsilon and Cutters. They will not want to pull, they will not want to work together, and you will see some teams bridge back up, just as we're seeing right now with Delta Tau, Delta Blake Kotlowski coming around turn 1, trying to bridge the gap solo.
Josh Herbst described him to me as their secret weapon, someone that he feels the field did not see as a big threat. He's trying to make a big push here for an exchange in the back stretch. So the second group of chasers that's being mentioned is including, we see an exchange in the back stretch for Delta Tau Delta, as the Cutters and SIGEP in that lead lap.
So there are 25 laps to go right now. If I'm Cutters and SIGEP, I work together for the next 10 laps or so. You do not want to let these chasers come back up to you all. You knew coming into this race it was a 2-man battle, and those are the 2 up there, and you want to keep it at 2. You have some good sprinters back there ready to beat you all, and you know that you're the teams to beat. You want to keep working together, but again, come lap 190, 195, when you try to put your final riders on, you're playing games, you don't want to lead somebody out. Games are played in cycling. The pack will slow down, cooperation will slow down, and that chase pack can easily catch back up.
Sigep takes the lead very slightly, and he's going to allow Thompson to go back in front. This is a real interesting dynamic. Third race for Gavette. First race for Thompson, the guy that you mentioned is one of the Wonder Kids, versus an experienced third race rider in Gavette.
And again, in this chase pack that you're seeing, so in this lead pack that you're seeing right now, that orange jersey of Fiji, they have yet to serve their penalty. They are not in the lead lap, but they will have to serve a penalty within the next few laps or so. When you are served a penalty within the race, you have to serve it within the next 10 laps, I believe. And all those teams behind them, Go Cycling, Pike, Human Wheels, TEP, Sigma Nu, those are all multiple laps behind. So that black jersey and green jersey, those are the only two teams who will do any work in this pack right now.
Gavette pushing up into the front now in this two-team dynamic up front. Making a move on the outside is Delta Tau Delta.
And Delta Tau Delta with a fresh rider on the bike, they are making a big move. Phi-Psi on their wheel.
Phi Delta Theta, where are Phi Delta Theta at? They're more out of this.
Phi Delta, I believe.
They are 8th. They are in 8th place. They're not out of it completely.
But they're still a lap behind all these chasers.
It's tough. It's going to be a tough effort in the next 25 laps to do that.
So Phi Delta bridging up, and here comes Delta Tau Delta. They are bridging up to Cutters and Sigma Phi Epsilon. You'll see them come around turn 1 in just a second. They have bridged that gap. We have a 3-team race now.
John Peterson on the bike for Delta Tau Delta. They have a 2.7 second gap behind him. It's getting even shorter as they've gotten right behind them.
Delta Tau Delta, they are right on that yellow jersey of Phi Delta Theta's wheel. You see them now, the red and white striped jersey of Delta Tau Delta. There are 3 teams now at this lead pack with 23 laps to go.
And Phi-Psi is not too far behind as well.
Phi-Psi, it looks like about 5 seconds behind. They are trying hard with Carson Etnier. Carson Etnier has run a magnificent race, tried so hard to unlap themselves. And then Chi Alpha, where are they now? They're about a half lap behind the leaders.
So about 5. Yeah, Phi-Psi was down a lap, just 4 seconds behind now. Chi Alpha 15 seconds behind. Beta Sig a lap behind.
Jack, this has been one of the most crazy, chaotic, insane races I've seen in my lifetime.
If you're Phi Delta here, you're a lap behind these guys. They're making a bit of a burst here, and Thompson's going to get on his wheel. Looks behind himself. It's a 4-team stretch here.
I don't know if Judah understands that Phi Delta's a lap behind, but he is using them as a little propeller to keep going. Phi Delta is going on very short sets right now. That rider was only on for about 4 to 5 laps. They're struggling to keep up. They're still a lap down from everybody. At this point, try to beat those chasers because this race is going to blow apart even more. But at this point for Phi Delta, stay in that lead pack even if you're a lap down and hope for the best come later.
Right on the outside is Delta Tau Delta. They take first place.
And nobody wants to chase them. Judah and Drew are just looking at each other, and it looks like John Peterson and Delta gets a free gap to make an exchange.
Yeah, Delta trying to make an exchange in the back stretch. We'll see who that is. There's 20 laps left in this race.
And that wind is still an incredible factor. As soon as you go around turn to that back stretch, whoever's in first, you are just getting met with a face full of wind.
So there's Delta Tau Delta trying to get back into things.
Phi-Psi still struggling to catch up. They're about a half a straightaway behind these riders, but nobody to work with.
There's an exchange for Cutters. Or excuse me, they're not going to do it.
A little fake exchange, something we haven't seen in quite some time. And Sig Ep with a little fake exchange. They are playing games with each other, Jack. This is fun cycling. This is high-quality strategic cycling.
Brady Jarozinski's on the bike for Delta Tau Delta. He's just a bit behind those leading 2 groups in Cutters and Sig Ep. It's a 3-team group there. A bit further behind is Phi Kappa Psi. A bit further behind them is Chi Alpha. Man, 1, 2, 3. Cutters, Sig Ep.
It looks like Cutters is lining up for an exchange. Judah Thompson slowing this pack down. Are they going to exchange now?
Yeah, no.
No, they're waiting another lap. Let's see what they do. It looks like Jacob Kuhn was set to come on the bike, but he did not. And don't look now. But Phi Kappa Psi is back in this race. They have bridged a lap. They have chased back. We have a 4-team race now.
We've passed 2 hours now. It's flown by. Less than 20 laps to go.
You can see that crowd is thrilled by it. Let's see if Phi Kappa Psi can rewrite their recent history and come home with a trophy.
Thompson, he's a freshman. We'll see if he makes the exchange now. Kuhn is ready to come on. He's getting towards the outside.
But with no gap, I would expect this pack to start pushing it.
They will
Cutter's
make the
going with
exchange.
the no burn strategy, and Drew Gavette is going for it. They know what Cutters is doing, and Jacob Kuhn with the big gap to chase. That is the game you play when you don't burn like that. It worked early, but later in the race, teams know what you're doing, and that is a big risk reward as Drew Gavette is going for it, and possibly for an exchange as they put a bike in that Sig-Up pit in turn 1.
Jarozinski is right on his tail for Delta Tau Delta. Phi Kappa Psi's falling off a little bit. They may try and get an exchange, get another guy
Drew
on the
Gavette
bike.
going to fight with some lap traffic here. Might not be able to make the exchange. He's
He
trying
won't.
to. He says, no, I'm going another lap.
No, he's not.
As Jacob, oh, he is exchanging. Excuse me.
He's coming off for Alex Hamilton, the rookie sophomore in his first race.
And
Passing him is
Delta
Jarozinski.
is in the lead now.
They may look to make an exchange pretty soon.
So we have Delta Tau Delta in the red and white striped jersey in the lead. Sig-Up bridging back up. But Jacob Kuhn, again, with that no burn by Judah Thompson, he has had to work over a lap and a half now to bridge back up and is just now doing it. But again, if we're talking about matches in that limited match box, he used another one right there. And we are coming down to 15 laps to go.
Man. And it's slowing down a lot.
Kai Alpha now making exchange in turn 3, about a straightaway and a half behind this pack. But if this pack keeps playing games with each other, they might come back up.
There's
Just
Kuhn. Kuhn making a big
Kuhn
move up the
and
inside.
Cutters going.
He's passed back on the inside and not able to keep up.
But every team knows what they're doing. They are chasing down the green jersey, the pre-race favorites in Cutters.
Jarozinski right behind. Gavette, or excuse me, it's going to be Hamilton on the bike as well, and they've slowed up a little bit.
These
Kuhn.
are all experienced riders. They are not trying to make the move. They're just playing with each other, trying to see which attack sticks. This is the exact same strategy as the end of a one-day spring classic, your Paris-Roubaix, your Tour of Flanders. When you don't have any teammates in the field with you, you are just trying to see what sticks, and I would argue another few attacks, one of these might stick.
Okay, Kai Alpha.
Kai Alpha, as this pack slows down, is about to bridge back up to this pack. We're going to have a 5-team race with 14 laps to go.
It is indeed 5 teams. Coming up in the inside is SAE, but no one's going to follow them.
Now the question is, who makes the first counterattack and where are the sprinters? Who do you put on and when do you put them on?
Jet Black is ready in an exchange in the far side. Jarozinski may try and make a burn here.
Peyton Gaskill in the pit for Cutters, standing there with the bike. He'll be ready in a few laps. Will Pitts, we have not seen him in quite a while.
We haven't seen Torrent since lap 141.
So I imagine Cutters, they'll exchange to Peyton around lap 189, 190. He'll do 5 laps and give it to Torrent for the end. Sig-Up, I would imagine that Alex Hamilton on the bike right now sticks another 4 to 5 laps on and gives it to Will Pitts in the end. And Josh Herbst, we have not seen him on the bike in quite some time
he
either.
was in the crash. We'll see if he's going to be fit enough to try and be in the final sprint should it come to that. Just a 17-mile-an-hour lap
And
last time out.
Phi Kappa Psi, don't forget about them. Carson Ettenmeyer has done a lot of work today. I don't know how well they do in a sprint, but he would probably be their sprinter. And Chi Alpha, Jonathan Frazier, one of the most underrated riders in the field. Look out for him as Delta Tau Delta. Again, they're just playing with each other. They know they don't want to leave them out, but somebody needs to make a move.
Jarozinski, is he going for a burn?
He
Looks
is
like
going
he is.
for a burn. He has a gap. Byside doesn't want to chase. Sig-Up is having to chase now. Great
Yellow
move.
flag. Yellow flag is going.
Yellow flag. Where's the crash?
Yellow flag is going. That ruins the attempt to move there.
A yellow flag with 12 laps left. I don't see a crash on the track, Jack.
I don't either. Having to slow down the
Oh,
riders.
there's something going on in Wild Aces pit box over there. Team number 31 around turn 2. It's in the pit box of Wild Aces. I'm not sure what happened over there, but there is a yellow flag which delays any move going on. But Delta Tal Delta and Brady Jarozinski with a slight gap. No, they're still in the lead pack together, so there's no gap. These 5 riders are still together as Cutters smartly makes an exchange, putting Peyton Gaskill on the bike.
So what looks like it's going to have to happen is after get him across the track. There was an issue in the pit, so after get him across the track, we may, I don't know what a red situation looked like here if they get someone across the track.
They would not red flag it. This yellow flag goes on as long as needed, and if necessary, they would finish this race under yellow, and if that happens, it looks like Delta Tal Delta is in the lead by a hair.
Not on here, but they were when the flag went.
They were in the lead, so Delta Tal Delta would win this race if the yellow flag goes on for another 10 laps.
So we'll keep you updated on what's happening.
Just to keep you honest here, a yellow flag lap takes about 55 seconds to a minute to complete. So we're looking at, if there's a yellow flag of about 8 to 10 minutes, we may see the race end under yellow. That would be atrocious for what this race has been so far.
No, it looks like they have gotten him across the pit. I think we should be good to come back into the race in just a moment. Only issue is have to reestablish who's on the bike when. So Cutters made an exchange, had to get back in line.
So Cutters made one of the best exchanges there, but now they're about 20 meters behind the pack, but Peyton Gaskill can get that up in a second.
Yeah.
Sigap, Faisai, Delts, and Kai Alpha are all up there leading, and will make at least one more exchange to put the sprinter on for the last exchange. It looks like Will Pitts is in the pit box for Sigap. Josh Herb should be ready for Delts. Torrin Cray-Mayer is still on the bike for Cutters.
He had a jacket on. He's ditched it, though. It looks like we're readying ourselves for a green flag to come back onto things.
And then Kai Alpha, I want to look at where Jonathan Frazier is and where Carson Etnier is.
Well, they're all together. The green flag is going. We're back. 10 laps. Less than.
Here we go. Peyton Gaskill catches back up to this lead pack of 5 riders, and Sig Ep is pushing it. I'm not sure what they're trying to do here because everybody else is following. And Kai Alpha, are they going for an exchange with no gap? They are. They are exchanging right now, so they'll have a major gap to catch up to. Sig Ep going in for an exchange, it looks like, to Will Pitts with 8 laps to go.
They're making an exchange.
I don't know how I feel about this. A little bit too long to go.
They're bringing Pitts on. This might be his last burst to try and win the race.
Sprinter. He will be on for the end of the race. And Alex Hamilton crashes
8
into
laps.
the turn 1 pit boards, exhausted from a great effort.
8 laps for Pitts.
So we still have yet to see, it looks like, Cutters, they will probably make another exchange to put Torrin on. Delts will make another exchange to put Josh Herbst on. And then Faisai will stay on.
Herbst is on the bike right now.
Herbst is on the bike right now, so they are probably done making exchanges for the race. And Carson Etnier is on the bike. So it looks like maybe only Cutters makes one more exchange, as Jason Fowler, their pit coach, is talking to Torrin Cray-Mayer, giving him the strategy for what to do in these next few laps.
Those are the 5. That group right there. Delta Tau Delta, Cutters, Faisai, Sigap, Kai Alpha.
Right now, in the next 4 to 5 laps, it's all about positioning, Jack. It is where you want to be. With this wind, you do not want to be leading the pack coming into turn 2. You want to slingshot around them, just like in NASCAR, as Cutters and Peyton Gaskill go for this exchange.
Here's the moment.
To Torrin Cray-Mayer, the riders are trying to catch him, but Peyton putting a massive effort in here.
They want him to make the exchange. He's going to have to slow up. Wow, that was a fast exchange.
Fast exchange, not the most legal, but it works in this case. And Torrin Cray-Mayer is going to be the freshest person on the bike going into the last 5 laps.
Haven't seen him since lap 141. Over 50 laps he's been prepping.
The freshest rider in the field right now.
He's prepping himself. He's slow. He's the 5th placed guy right now.
So, does anybody make a long-range attack? Does anybody go right now? I don't think so. Maybe a Jonathan Frazier or a Carson Etnier go for it because they know that Josh Herbst, Will Pitts, and Torrin Cray-Mayer are the best sprinters in the field.
So it's a game of cat and mouse. This is the bike race. They're saying lapped riders stay on the outside. We have a park sign up in the Cutters pit. We're going to see what that might mean.
It means draft off of those riders, get a good position. Where you want to be in the next couple laps is not in the front row. You want to be near the outside, preferably second wheel, so you can slingshot around and you don't have to get boxed in by those riders slingshotting around you. If you are on the inside of this group near the back, you are not going to win this sprint.
Herbst up in front. Etnier in second. Pitts in third. Rounding things out in the back is Cray Maywar, excuse me.
This is a race of experienced cyclists. They know what they are doing. They have trained all year long for this. And as a fan, this is incredibly thrilling.
And it's on Jonathan Frazier for Chi Alpha. When are they going to go? When
I
do they
imagine
move?
nobody goes until about 197, 198. It won't be sudden, but it will ramp up gradually as riders want that good position. Again, you may have one rider try to make a long-range attack, but at this point in the race, it rarely works. So I would imagine that 198, the pace starts to pick up, and then once they see that white flag, it is guns a-blazing for the next 30 seconds.
Herbst, Cray, Maywar, Carson, Frazier, and Pitts. Fiji's a half lap back, as is Beta Sigma Psi. Herbst is currently the man pulling things out in front, but it's not a fast lap at all, just under 50 seconds. 3 laps to go in the Little 500.
What we don't want here is lap traffic interfering with this race here. And so far, the lap riders have been doing a great job of that. Josh Herbst is wanting to lead this out. That is a confident strategy from him. I don't know how I feel about that, but if he likes being in first, he gets to dictate the moves right now, and he gets to follow anything. Sig Ep right now, I think, is in the best position with Cutters right behind them. Those are the sprinters that they are looking for, and Will Pitts and Torin Craig-Mayer, they're going to slingshot on the outside in a couple laps' time.
I think Beta Sig and SAE are also in this group. 2 laps to go. SAE is there. They've got Luke Noss on the bicycle. Beta Sig has Ben McEwen on.
You are absolutely right. SAE and Luke Noss is back in this. Phi Gamma Delta is back in this. Phi Delta Day is not in this, but we have a bigger
They're going
now. Josh Herbst is going. Here comes Torin Craig-Mayer around the outside.
Get the white flags ready. Here we go into turn 3.
Josh Herbst and Torin Craig-Mayer trying to get that position.
Craig-Mayer.
Stay safe here as a big gust of wind comes in.
White flag goes. 1 lap left. Craig-Mayer takes the lead.
Josh Herbst in second place. As Torin soft pedals into turn 1, he does not want that lead. He wants to stay safe. When does the move happen? When does Josh Herbst go? Can he make the move around Torin Craig-Mayer?
Here we go. 2 turns left. Craig-Mayer in the lead. Herbst on the outside. Pitts on his outside. What will it be? The checkered flag is ready. History. 15. A sprint to the finish, and Cutters adds further daylight in history. An incredible race from start to finish. Sig Ep made a huge move early in the race, and they were there at the end. Josh Herbst, Will Pitts have to watch as Torin Craig-Mayer crosses the finish line in first place. The red flag goes, and there we have it. Unofficial results will be brought to you in just a moment. But just 52 laps for Torin Craig-Mayer. He will not end his career at the Little 500 without a title, and he puts it up. The 1, the 5, 15 times. Cutters, Delta Tau Delta, Sig Ep, Chi Alpha, Phi Kappa Psi. Wow. Evan is down in the pit. We're going to toss it to him when he's ready, but the pure emotions of the Little 500 on full display here today. We'll get it down to Evan in a moment. Hank, just quick thoughts on that for the Cutters.
Pure ecstasy. That was one of the best races strategically, strength-wise I've ever seen in my lifetime. And Torin Craig-Mayer, after 2021, sprinted, did not win, came off the track crying. Last year, put in a tough situation, didn't win. To redeem himself in his senior year race, to win the Little 500 in an all-time classic race in that sprint finish.
Wow.
What a day.
We've got Evan down there. He's with Peyton. We'll toss it down to Evan right now with the winning team.
Thanks, Jack, here with the champions, Cutters. For a 15th time, you won your pole position. You didn't lead that much, but it didn't matter. How does it feel to win the 2023 Little 500?
You know, you see at the end of a lot of races, teams have an explosion of emotion, and I didn't think it'd be that intense, but 4 years, man. It's a long time coming. And, you know, shout out to Gep, great race. You know, they gave us a run for the money, but I had complete faith in Torin to finish that race for us. We all came together, made it happen. It's awesome.
And your coach just put a ring on you. What does that mean?
I've wanted one of these for a long time. It's awesome. That's all I can say.
Well, congratulations. Go enjoy with your team. Congratulations,
Thank
2023 champions. Jack, back up to you.
Thank you, Evan. Cutters will celebrate this one long into the night. Peyton and Torin, two third-year guys. When they first got to Cutters, the first race back in 2021, there were no fans. They wore the gold jerseys for the 2019 champions. They wanted to make it a third straight title, but they couldn't do it. They said this year the green jersey felt better for them. It felt like something they had earned rather than a jersey that wasn't theirs, and they were confident. Torin told me, Torin saying on a podcast that he believed that having them in that pit that they chose, pit 33, the fans are behind the start-finish line, the photos look good. It was a photo finish, and the photos will look great, Hank.
Absolutely, Jack. Kudos, big kudos to Cutters. Great race strategy. Sigma Phi Epsilon created the race. They made the race happen, but Cutters, they closed it down. They were safe. They made smart moves, and that end of race strategy, keeping Torin Craig-Mayer off the bike for the last 50 laps, exchanging during a yellow flag, which you almost never see with 10 laps to go, and then Peyton Gaskill sending it off to his fellow senior and Torin Craig-Mayer for that sprint finish, a race for the ages.
Race for the ages. The timing margins between these top five, talk about thinnest of margins. Cutters wins things in first place, 0.13 seconds behind is Delta Tau Delta, 0.26 seconds behind is Sigma Phi Epsilon, a second behind is Chi Alpha, and a second behind is Phi Kappa Psi. I mean, your top five decided by a second.
For Torin Craig-Mayer to take the lead into turn two on that final lap, and Josh Herbst trying to slingshot around him, they were wheel to wheel at a time in turn 3 and 4, but Torin just with that inside line and a little bit more grip on that line, got it. But what a sprint finish from all of those teams in there. Delta Tau Delta, again, a dark horse to take it on the podium again. Big kudos to that team for being there until the end. And let's not forget about Chi Alpha, a big dark horse coming in 4th place for the second time in 3 years. And then the teams, all those teams behind them that were a lap down and caught back up to even compete in that sprint finish.
Yeah, it's going to be Chi Alpha. They had 3 rookies, but 4 seniors, or 3 seniors, I should say. Interesting to see how many of those guys return for a 5th year, or if it's going to be another case where Ryan Lowe is the only guy coming back for them next year, as Jonathan Frazier was their only returner this year. But Frazier was almost in that. He had to burn all of the remaining matches to try and catch up to that group, as did Carson Etnier for Phi Kappa Psi, who managed to bring themselves into 5th place.
But Sigma Phi Epsilon, let's not sleep on what they did today. Lap 70, they decided to make the race theirs. They wanted to make this race on their terms. And you know what? They did. Did they end up winning the race? No. But they knew what they wanted to do, and they did it. They accomplished it. But in the end, the best sprinter won. That was Torin Craig-Mayer and Cutters.
Wow. The teams are embracing each other. They're celebrating over there, and they're going to be on the podium in just a moment.
And that's what we love about this. These competitors who trained all year together, they competed against each other, This is the one day that they compete against each other. This is one day in April. They're all friends, though. They're all going to go out and drink together, celebrate, and revel together after this emotional, tense, stressful day.
I mean, let's try and break down the race from start to finish. We had a crash in turn 2. We were worried potentially maybe turn 2 would be a problem all throughout the day. Then there was a huge one in 53 on lap 53, I should say. Excuse me. Went yellow. There was a brief pause there. There was an issue in the CSF or in the Wild Aces, excuse me, pit around turn 189, and it was an unbelievable moment all throughout things. I mean, let's take a brief moment to thank the people to help make this kind of thing happen. Let's thank our sponsors. So let's start off. Thanks to our championship partners, B97, Coca-Cola Consolidated, Pizza X, and the IU Bookstore. We would also like to thank our championship sponsors, Blue Line Media Productions, Campus Inc., Canary Cycleware, Logos Express, Momentum Indy, Lamar Outdoor Advertising, Perfect Parties and Events, Pan Eraser, The Indiana Shop, University Tees, Verve Indiana, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Underground Printing, the Sander Bloomington, and Substance Use Intervention Services. Thank you to the partners and the sponsors who help make a race of this magnitude and this excitement happen. Hank, I mean, it's tough to put to words after that. I remember last year, after that broadcast, after that race, I thought, it's hard to be this speechless. It's hard to be this speechless after that.
Absolutely.
Just the pure chaos.
It wasn't just strong racing. It was smart racing from start to finish. Each team faced their own form of adversity, whether it was a crash, whether it was a bad exchange or a bad burn or needing to catch back up or burning too many matches early. They faced adversity, and the strategy near the end, that is something that we rarely see in the Little 500 with these amateur collegiate cycling racers and these teams training for this one race in the year. They did it. They made it happen. What a high-quality race from start to finish.
Incredible. Incredible. Amazing to see what happened there. We're seeing now the teams coming up on stage. Craig Maywar, I don't blame him for sitting down. I'd sit down after having to put in that kind of effort too. Not to stand up in a moment to lift something in just a moment, but Sigma Phi Epsilon. I mean, talk about blowing the race up. Chi Alpha mentioned in their interview as a Delta Tau Delta that they just blew up the race and no one knew what to kind of do in that immediate moment. And for about 70 laps, they led things. And they nearly ran away with it. They kept themselves in it till the very end, got Pitts on the bike in a moment to make a big difference. Wow.
And for Drew Gavette and Will Pitts, the two seniors, to end their Little 500 careers with this race, they can hold their heads high in the fact that they put everything out on the track today. They didn't win the sprint, but they made the race, and they made it a fun race for us to watch.
It was fun indeed. Fun indeed. For the first time since 2019, Cutters are the champions. SIGEP, we thought, third in 2021, second last year. You climb that one spot,
one
you
place to
get
go
bronze, silver, gold. They just couldn't quite do it. They're going to be in third place this year. But talk about a trio of years for Pitts and Gavette, where you've got a trio of podium finishes. Not many people can claim that about your 3 years in Little 500. Delta Tau Delta, I mean, talk about that. That's absolutely insane. Phi Delta Theta are the only team that broke up a top 3 over the last 3 years of these 3 teams. It has been dynasties for each of them. Josh Herbst, the guy who was on the bike in that last moment, he has a chance to come back, one of only 4 guys. Pitts actually as well, he's a junior. I keep on thinking of him as a senior. Pitts has a chance to come back as well and try and complete that, I should say. Judah Thompson, obviously a very young guy for Cutters. There's a lot of good youth, and Jacob Kuhn as well. A lot of great youth for both of these teams. For all these teams, I should say. But Delta Tau Delta, there's a new name under Jet Black. Same guys, though.
Delta Tau Delta, last year, they came in third place, and it was a surprise third place for most of the field. They were not happy.
No.
They came off that podium disappointed, angry, with the fire under them to come back. This year, just like SIGEP did last year, came in second. Next year, with a returning Josh Herbst on this team, their goal is to hold up that Borg Warner Trophy and come home with championship.
A tough one there for them. They almost had it in the last moment, but credit to Josh Herbst. That guy has got a fire in him because he was in that massive crash, flips head over handlebars, gets himself off the ground, completes the lap for an exchange, and gets on the bike and nearly in a sprint finish wins it. But the team that did win it, Cutters, what can you say?
Winning the green jersey, qualifying first, winning the white jersey, and winning Spring Series, Team Pursuit, the ITT Championships. They were the favorites coming in. Everybody had a big circle around them, and winning as the favorites is not an easy thing to do because everybody's marking from start to finish, but to come back from SIGEP, taking an over half-lap advantage, and keeping their sprinter fresh until the end, absolute magnificent strategy and execution by this team.
For the first time right there, Craig Mayward lifts that trophy into the windy afternoon sky in Bloomington. In their 39th race as a program, they win their 15th title. An average finish of 3.7 is going to creep up just a little bit more. But you mentioned it. I mean, they were eyes on them from the start. They said at a event that, what were they asked the first thing you do after the race? They had a victory lap. Not the first thing they did. It was more of a hug for the team. Craig Mayward did do his victory lap around the track. Had a lot of talk, a lot of confidence, and he backed it up. There it is. I mean, you think about Cutters, you think about the Legacy Little 500. It's one and the same. There's a Little 500 bicycle from race director Emily Carrico. What's that moment like when you're the race director and you're alongside all these people who've had such great moments? There's some slight disappointment from the teams in second and third, and then obviously the champions.
It is the most proud feeling as race director to hand off that bike, to hand off those trophies to the podium teams, because you know this is what they've been working for. And to see them execute it on track, do what they've been trained to do, and see them so emotional with that positivity, tears streaming down their faces, that is what that job is all about. And seeing Emily and Trent give off those awards to those teams, I'm sure they are just beaming with joy and pride for these teams.
Well, let's try and look back on this race and just kind of the craziness that this was from lap 1 to lap 200. It was absolutely insane. Well, we'll leave it here for a moment before we kind of look too far forward. Just a little drinking of the Coke here on stage for these guys. A delightful moment for them. Let's look at how they got to this point. It was remarkable. We saw an incredible turnout of fans on a windy day here this afternoon. But Hank, just talk me through just your takeaways from today.
It was a fast race from start to finish. It was chaotic. We knew that the teams that were going to make moves, and they made the moves. We saw Cutters go out there, SIGEP go out there, Phi Delta Theta was in there for a while. Teams get lapped to come back. It was a race of attrition. You don't hear that much in this race, but it was, and it came back together. Beyond beautiful strategy at the end, teams faced adversity, and a great sprint finish to end the day with.
Cutters takes the victory here. Hank, delighted to be alongside you for this broadcast here today. Exceptional insight, exceptional to share the passion of this moment here with you. My final broadcast as a student at Indiana University. A very special place, and very appreciative that I was able to be here for 2 of these races. Just add a little footnote to the history of this race. Well, I'm going to try and say thank you to the entire production crew. Lily Hunt, our director, our producers, Emma Watson, Lauren Brewer, Galen Clavio, my spotter, Griffin Epstein, our sideline reporters, Evan Kamikow and Abby Haymond. I'm Jack Edwards alongside Hank Duncan. We'll see you next year.